What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose.
What is up, Internet? How was y'all's weekend? Turn that down so y'all can hear me. Mine was pretty uneventful, pretty boring. Apologize for the late start today. Let's just call it stomach issues. But let me beg for subs, because this is the one thing I need from you guys. Is I need your support. All I need is a subscription, and I'll never ask you for anything else. Once I get 1,000, I'm done asking for that or for likes. If you like it, like it. If you don't, don't. But I want to be an asshole because I need it for these debates. Help me show people I can be an asshole and still get monetized. Right? You're gonna like it. In the long run, you're gonna like me being an asshole better. It makes the videos better. But if I got to put on Dockers and act like some fake guy, it's not gonna be as good. And oh, this is new too. I got to introduce my co-host. Everyone say hi to Ozzy. If this crashes the stream, I'll put it right back up. I'll go start over. But this works when I'm not online. Let's see how this works. There he is. Ozzy the super dog. Look at that. So that's why you're subscribing, so he doesn't have to eat cheap dog food. Let me change this back. There we go. Just looked unprofessional moving the camera around and shit, so I did that. Also, I am a debate coach. I'm here to teach you guys to make better arguments by pointing out all the stupid arguments in these videos. That's the only way that I can get to watch the videos I want to watch. So that's the way we're going to do it. But this is an educational video. I'm a dating coach. I'm a graduate of Debate University. I'm actually the valedictorian. So that's why I decided to help you guys make better arguments. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get into it. Let me turn this music off. StreamYard's weird. Put this up. Let's do down here. No, wait. Let's do that one. All right, here we go. This is a long one, so I may not be doing the whole debate.
What's up, guys? We are live. So we have an epic debate for you today. As fun as it is to watch Andrew dunk on some bimbo, this is going to be actually very, very, I think, intense intellectual discussion. We got two people who are both extremely good at debating, competing against each other. And where they're going to be talking about, say the prompt again, Andrew.
This was Christian nationalism against libertarian communism.
Yeah, so that should be fun. So let me quickly explain my role for, well, I think, Andrew, you kind of know how I do.
Hang on real quick, Alex. I just want to clarify that Vaush doesn't have an actual issue with the prompt.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, so anyway, for anyone who's new to the channel, I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. I'm modding, so that means that I am not getting involved in debate. Doesn't mean I agree or disagree with someone. I will only get involved under three circumstances. Number one, someone's being interrupted so much that they can't get a word out, and I'm going to use my discretion when it comes to that, whether I should or should not. Number two, someone refuses to answer a direct question. And number three, someone is derailing the conversation to such an extent that I feel like it's not relevant to the initial prompt. Those are the only times I'll get involved. Hopefully, I won't even have to talk much during this debate, and debaters will have at it. So Andrew kindly asked to do 7-minute opening statements, and I think that's fair. So we'll start off with 7-minute opening statements. I think, Andrew, since you were the initiator, you should do your opening statement first.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure my audio okay now. Guys,
yeah, you're good.
Out in the chat. Well, not to you guys. Hang on, I'm just asking my chat. Yeah, it's all good. Okay. Vaush, I won't take the entire 7 minutes. I'm sure you won't either before we get into the back and forth. But first, I appreciate Vaush taking the time to have this debate with me, the audience of both Alex, PWF, and the audience of The Crucible for coming out tonight as we have this debate. The topic tonight is Christian nationalism versus libertarian communism. I understand Vaush likely has many criticisms of Christian nationalism, though I think most of them will be directed at other people's advocation of it rather than my own. To define Christian nationalism simply, it is the operation of a synergy between the church and the state. Such a synergy can be operated either under the confines of the church acting as the state or as the church being a division of it in some way. This could operate as an advisory role, which in many ways it does now anyway, or as a division of the state itself with separate guidelines from that of the secular nation, or it could have similarities to the secular nation. This idea is in no way radical. To this day, there are many nations who operate under these guidelines through religion, though I would argue with the wrong religion. And historically, such Christian nations and empires withstood the test of time, though ultimately buckling. Some of them lasted well over 1,000 years. No current product of any Western nation is going to do that. Remember in the course of this debate that Vaush is at the mercy of the same criticisms he may levy at the idea of Christian nationalism. In many ways, he is more at the mercy of his own criticisms than I am, as the examples of communism we have are less than ideal, and he envisions a radical parting from those systems, yet historically those systems are all we can point to. Under my own system, however, we can point to nations which have prospered, persevered, and ultimately created mostly happy and healthy populations. A return to patriarchy is the order of the day. The way that we would achieve this is the same way the communists and feminists achieved their subversive goal of their attempted annihilation of Christianity, which is still ongoing, and that key is through the demographic shift via birth rates. The religious have a lot of children, and the non-religious don't. The future essentially is ours. My plan for such a system is no different than Vaush's in execution. Over the next 100 years, we Christians establish our values into our children and direct them to begin to take over the institutions. This seems like a laughable proposition, except that's exactly what the Marxists and feminists did. It took them about 150 years or so to accomplish it. We can do exactly the same thing. In fact, we can probably do it in about 100 years. Our job external to that is just to slow the progressive machine down any way we can until age claims its advocates. Obviously, I have a lot more to say on this topic, and as we get into the debate, just remember that theology informs culture, and culture informs politics. And with that, I'll cede the rest of my time over to Vaush, and hopefully we can get into this thing.
Cool. Vaush, you got 7 minutes. You can use as much of that as you want. Have at it, buddy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I noted absent of that opening from Andrew was either a description of what the problems are with modern society or how his proposed solutions would fix any of it. The problem that I have is that ultimately it feels like this is always a vibes thing, which is ironically very feminine and not at all a representation of patriarchal logic. The idea that there's something wrong with society and the best way to address it is to return with a V, just gesturing at, well, civilization lasted, ignoring the fact, of course, that Christian civilization and history has been a nonstop shit pit where countries obliterate each other, ethnic and ideological and linguistic and religious divides shift constantly, just nonstop war. I mean, if you want to point towards longevity of civilization, I mean, go look at China. You know, that's probably the best example we have of real longevity. Christianity, of course, not being a primary force in its stability, except for the extent to which it destabilized it in the 1800s. In truth, what makes a nation last or does not is A, complicated, and B, not of interest to Andrew. His interest in these subjects, patriarchy, blah, blah, fight progressivism, is for entirely separate reasons. In reality, the idea of preserving civilization is altogether kind of a psyop. It's not a real thing. Everything changes. No civilization is as it was 50 or 100 years ago. You can preserve names, I guess. You can point towards official longevity, but none of this really means anything. What matters is, how do we build the best life possible for the greatest number of people? And I think, of course, the libertarian socialism proposes many excellent solutions when it comes to the problems we have with modern life. Religion does not. Religion does not improve anything. It does not fix our problems. It does not make our cities more walkable. It does not address income inequality. It doesn't do anything except give people a feeling that there is meaning where there is none. I think we should construct our own meaning in a willful manner rather than ceding it entirely to imagined higher forces.
All right. Open.
Okay. I don't like interrupting their opening statements or closing statements because in debates that's frowned upon. But he just called Andrew's worldview feminine. Wow. Wow. I think we're going to get into it, and I'll let y'all decide if you think it's Andrew's side is feminine or this guy is feminine.
This is the open segment part, so
Wow.
you guys have at it.
Yeah, so Vaush, let's start with your religion doesn't improve anything. And yet, as we look at the happiness indexes of the people who are the most religious, they seem to be the most happy. They're also having the most children. They're also divorcing the least. They seem to, out of all the metrics, have the least amount of mental illness. How could you possibly, with a straight face, make the claim that religion doesn't improve anything? All of your positions are material in nature, and they don't seem to work that well. They don't seem to answer greater questions.
Right off the bat, we see the analytical issues. First of all, tracking this onto the number of babies had. Historically, the most babies humans have been during pre-modern medieval periods where women were pumping out 11 kids, half them would die in the fields. The number of children you have has nothing to do with how happy you are. Likewise with divorces and marriages. Again, we would have to argue then that the
coming from someone with no kids and no happiness. So you figure it out.
happiest marriages must have necessarily been in the ones in, I don't know, England prior to Henry VIII. You would point back to some time where it was illegal to divorce. These aren't real metrics of happiness. People in general are getting less happy. That is absolutely the case. Why
yeah, but the
not
religious
tie
seem to
other-
be less so via self-reporting, and the religious are having the most amount of children. And I have the stats here. If you'd like to review them, I can show this to you and demonstrate it to you. Pew Research has been following this very closely for a number of years, and their indexes seem to be quite good. And yet your materialist outlook seems to claim that libertarian socialism, materialism will save you. And yet we're closer to that worldview than ever. And yet mental illness and all of these factors which lead to unhappiness is higher than ever.
We've only
least of
began
all with the religious.
tracking. So first of all, as I established, birth rates are irrelevant to this discussion if we're talking about happiness. Second of all, mental illness as well. We've only started tracking mental illness in a meaningful way in the past couple of decades. So this is another factor which you.
How happy are you going to be when you get old and you don't have anybody to wipe your ass because the population's dropped so low that we can't even find enough people to hire a nurse for that? Do you not understand? Right now it's not, but we're talking about projections. This dummy doesn't understand projections.
Can't reasonably tie to a lack of religiosity. In fact, if you go to our insane asylums and people with severe mental illness issues, you'll find plenty of people there who are deeply religious. The idea that mental illness tracks perfectly onto, or even remotely onto a lack of religiosity is just absolutely.
Just because you yell about Jesus in a mental institution does not make you religious. It makes you crazy, and that's why you're in a mental institution.
Not the case.
Well, how
The
can you
problem
make
here-
that claim? That actually makes no sense. You say birth rates can't be tied to happiness, and yet if you have children, you are happier.
Oh, sorry, wait.
How could you possibly say that birth rates wouldn't track onto that? Of course they would.
Do you think people were like at their happiest in India in like 1880 when the average number of children had by every mother was like 8 or 9 at a time
Yeah,
during
but
desperate poverty?
this is
No, I'm asking.
yeah, this is a
like-
red herring. It has nothing to
No,
do
no, no.
with
Wait,
anything.
answer the question. If you,
I
think
have
that
no
birth
idea.
rates
I
are-
don't think it's relevant. I have no
Okay,
idea.
I think that
Happiness would be very relative to someone living in a third world country with no electricity, don't you think? Happiness would be very relative.
birth rates do not track perfectly onto happiness. In fact, I don't think there's any.
Yeah, but that wasn't my
relationship between
claim
them at all.
bro. That
You
really
made the
was not
claim
my
that
claim.
higher
My-
birth rates are indicative of greater happiness. and I just
No,
don't think that's the case.
no. My claim, just so that you don't straw man it, is that
Okay.
women who have children seem to be happier than women who do not have children. When you look at the birth rate, of course, that's going to map onto that, as women are the ones who have the children. So obviously, if they're happier, they're going to have more children, and as mothers, they're going to have more children. At least
Do you
this
think
is
there might
what the
be,
Pew research shows.
Do you think there might be a confounding variable there? Like maybe the economic stability, which allows people to have children, might make people, happier?
Then why are the poorest people having the most of them?
Because poorer people sometimes are happier, and sometimes they have more children. Or
And what would
maybe,
make
as
a poorer
as per my
person
argument,
happier?
maybe there isn't a strong relationship between how many children you're having and how happy you are.
So what would make poorer people happier than people with all of this materialism? That's really weird, Vaush.
I didn't say that. I was indicating that I think this is an argument in favor of my point. I just don't think these two statistics track onto each other very well.
So poor people with a lot of kids are happy. You just kind of proved Andrew's point, don't you think?
I
No,
don't think you do either, frankly. I think that the reality that when we talk about like what makes people unhappy or what problems we can solve socially, the actual like fabric of a person's mental wellness is so complicated and so multivariate that I would immediately distrust anyone who tried to reduce it to a single variable. I'm more interested in.
Hang on. We're not reducing anything to a single variable. That's one. Okay. Nobody said the issue is not multifaceted. However, for you to make kind of this bold claim and gloss it over when you're pinned down on the fact that the people who are the poorest, they seem to be the happiest or the happiest. At least that's what your claim just was a second ago.
No,
so if that's true, then obviously it must be something other than materialism, which is causing them to be happier.
You can leave if you don't like it, pussy. I didn't invite you here.
Did you say that is, Vaush?
I didn't make that claim. I said that there are plenty of I said maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this, as ways of indicating that I don't feel there's a strong track between birth rates and happiness. Birth rates are higher in many parts of the world that are a lot poorer and less happy than the United States. In the United States, it is absolutely the case that poor people tend to have more children. There's also a racial or ethnic element to that as well. But this isn't a perfect one-to-one track. For instance, rural areas where the cities are drying up and dying, there are people who have lots of kids, sure, but they're not happy. I mean, we make I guess sort of reductive comments about white trash families. And I don't think that's fair, but it is certainly the case that, there are plenty of households out there where you have both many children and not a lot of happiness.
Well, then this is another problem with the materialist worldview, Vaush. When you make this kind of bold claim, don't you think that economics really has a lot to do with whether or not people are having children? And then you cite that the poorest people are having the most amount of children. Right. This is a very strange argument from you. So I'm hoping that you can qualify this and make this make sense to me.
I don't think anything that I said there doesn't make sense. The characteristics that might lead a person to have a lot of children are incredibly complicated. I mean, if you want a full rundown, it correlates more often to people who are poorer, I imagine, because people who are poorer often have a harder time with regards to family planning and management. They also have less strict life plans when it comes to their own career.
They're also more religious.
Sometimes, but
most of the time.
But they're not the happiest. In fact, there's a very large degree of opioid addiction and unhappiness in highly religious rural communities with lots of children. So it's almost like your attempt to reduce these
stats, please. Can you show any evidence of that? I'd love to see a study.
Variables to some kind of simple correlative line.
He throws these things out because no one ever asked for the study, but he hasn't got it.
Doesn't actually work when you look at the material reality.
Okay, well, first of all, backing up, you and I have both agreed already that it's multifaceted, right? I'll agree that that's true, but that doesn't mean that some variables aren't far more important than others, which is why you cited an economic variable to begin with. Moving into this, when you're talking about this portion of the topic, which is birth rates, which have become absolutely disastrous everywhere, not just in the West, but globally. This was all due to anti-natalist campaigning from leftists.
What's disastrous about our birth rates?
They're in free fall collapse, Vaush.
They've lowered, as they have in every industrialized country. Sure.
No, in all countries. Almost all countries everywhere, with the exception of a few African nations and Middle Eastern nations, and those are dropping off quickly too.
Yes, industrialized countries produce fewer children because you no longer need 8 little tykes to run the farm, of course.
Well, no, that's not the only reason that we have a collapse in birth rate. It's because women are getting married older instead of younger. Now, you could make the argument.
Education.
You could make the argument that this is due to, better family planning or something like this, I suppose. But still, ultimately, if you want to keep your population high, thus keeping your economy good, in all nations on planet Earth, you can't just shift around people who don't exist because the birth rate's lower everywhere.
Our populations are still growing.
No, they're actually plateauing quickly. And the last UN report showed that, but the most modern UN report on population demographics, which I have in front of me, show that it's much more catastrophic than the UN previously predicted, citing that China, and this came in from a study from sorry, it's on Forbes. I can link
China's
it over
situation
to
is specific to the one-child policy. I think that was very dumb of the CCP. Yeah. I'm talking about here in the West.
But 500, they're talking about a 500 million reduction in the Chinese population, potentially by 2050, 2060. That's right around the corner. That's a massive population reduction. Japan, within 200 years, is actually slated to not exist It's not. It's slated
I
to not
think it'll
exist
still
due to
exist.
the population.
So is the world population growing or decreasing right now?
Right now, it's plateauing.
The world population, as I understand it, is still growing at a decent clip. I mean,
it's
it went
going
from 6
but it's
billion to 8
plateauing.
billion just in
Yes.
sure, that's fine. We have a finite
And then
amount
it free
of space.
falls. And then it's projected to free fall by every UN analyst and by every scientific metric that you can possibly look at who has looked at this. It's
which is continued to do for the 2 years since this video was filmed.
expected to free fall and possibly stabilize at 6 billion in the next 150 years to 200 years. But the estimates,
what UN analyst? Yeah, I'd like to see that. Also, assuming that's the case, okay. I mean, it can't grow forever.
Okay.
Like, let's presume that information is accurate. If that seems fine. I mean, what should we have? 10, 12, 15?
Well, so
billion?
here's why this is problematic, Vaush, because the Population Bomb, which was a book that was dropped all over the African nations and India in order to reduce the populations of those nations significantly, it turns out that was very problematic because, as it turns out, the more people you have, the more work gets done and the more people get fed. Right now, due to the increase in population, there's more global food production, the ability to deliver this food globally to people who need it than there ever has been in human history. That's what happens with pro-natalist policies versus anti-natalist policies.
Okay, wait, you just answered what population do you think it should stop at? So, okay, it might stop at 6 billion. What meaningfully is the difference?
I think that the Earth could...
7?
The Earth can easily, according to analysis, have up to 25, 30 billion people with pretty, it's pretty regular ease.
Is that
within that confines of those numbers?
Ideal? How is that better than what we have?
Because more people equals more work, less starvation. Less starvation for populations, more work for infrastructure building, more work for, I mean, even look at the U.S. labor force now. One of the biggest problems.
People to cater to. This is very, very silly. The idea that everything gets better the more people are on Earth, it's just not the case. First of all, like people, the number of humans that are going to end up on the planet and like sort of plateau out at, that's not the same as our maximum carrying capacity. You don't want to hit the maximum carrying capacity for the same reason.
We're nowhere near it.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't want to. And the reason for that is the same reason you don't want to hit the maximum carrying capacity of an elevator or a restaurant.
But we don't even know what the maximum carrying capacity is, but we do know we're nowhere near it. And we're also declining.
I don't understand what the issue is with these broader trends.
Well, I've just explained it to you. You don't want populations in free fall collapse. You don't even have enough hands to do the work. What do you mean? You don't have that now in the United States.
The amount of work, first of all, we get plenty of work done in this country. And second of all, the idea that, sure, you have less.
Not by Americans. Now that we're getting rid of all the illegals, who's going to do it? Who's going to do that work when we don't have people?
People doing work, but you also have less people for whom to do the work. Like the idea that you would be doing the same amount of labor if there were 30 billion people on Earth as you have to now with 8 billion people on Earth.
No, man. No. Labor is scalable. You need to understand labor is scalable.
So I don't.
So like when you combine two people together to do a job, it doesn't get done twice as fast. It gets done 4 or 5 times as fast.
That's highly reductive and not the case for all things. There are plenty of things like regional economic limits or non-scalability or lacking in land area or climate change changing the available land.
Give me a type of job or occupation where that's true of.
There's not any. I don't have to provide any argument here because
I don't have to tell you about the jobs I just told you about.
The premise I'm arguing against is nonsensical. Let me construct an
ideology.
You have to provide an idea first.
I did.
And the idea you're providing is, what if we had an ideology that made everyone have as much babies as possible? But you need to sell me on this being a good idea because I don't care. Like, I'm not sold on this. I want people who are alive to be happy. I want the human species to do well. I think that the human species did pretty well at 6 billion. I'm sure it would do pretty well at 8 or 10 or whatever. But the idea of orienting all of my political beliefs around hitting some kind of maximum.
So I'll try a different angle for you then, if that's your approach. You do agree that you do want some people on planet Earth, right? At least some number of them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I want human civilization.
What number would that be from your perspective?
I don't care. That's the thing. Then
what's the argument here?
Even better. Why are you arguing if you don't care? Like you sound like you care.
We both want people, and if If the birth rate reduces, so a population collapses and there's no people, that bad.
You
so we
have
can
to
agree on
explain
that.
to me how shifting our entire political mindset to accommodate some arbitrary goal that you've just made up in front of me is necessary at all. I think that if we
it
build,
can't be arbitrary if you agree we need humanity.
if we no, the end point is still
What the gap really quick. So
well, really quickly,
Just to be clear, it's not just Andrew saying that our population is in real problems. It's not him making that up. That's coming from people much higher up than Andrew. I can assure you.
just want to ask, or I just want to put forward the point here really quickly, okay? I think that we should build good political systems that make people happy and encourage growth and economic stability and all those wonderful things. I do not think we need to orient everything about some kind of psychotic pro-natalist perspective where we try to keep women out of colleges and in the home so every single one of them has 7 children. I don't think that's
nobody. Okay, first of all, all you're doing there is framing. I never made the argument that women must do anything. What I told you is that we have a birth rate that's in free fall. You agree that we need to at least have some humanity, which means you have to at least replace the people who are in existence. So you and I can at least agree that every human being should probably have at least one other human being to replace them, right? Or if not, there needs to be some number of...
This is what Vaush is misunderstanding. He's thinking that if you increase the population numbers, the reproduction numbers, that means that there's going to be too many people here. We're not replacing the people who are dying. If everyone doesn't come up to that 2.2 number, our population numbers start to go down. So we're going to have less people. And then there's not enough people to do the jobs we need to get done.
Humans on planet Earth. So if that's true, and you and I agree that that's true, then having a declining birth rate, that would be catastrophic for both of our worldviews.
If it leveled out at 6 billion.
Hang on, stop. I'm going to step in for 1 second and just kind of bridge the gap a little bit. So you guys both agree that there needs to be humans on Earth. But the difference is that Vaush is saying, hey, I don't understand why it's important for us to increase the amount of people that we have on the planet now. Andrew's saying, hey, I think that would actually be better. So that's what Vaush is asking.
The problem...
Increasing would be better, but we needed to get up to that 2.2 number at least. That's the minimum. We've got to get it to there or it's really bad. But if it's a confusing argument. He's thinking we're going to get too many people just by replacing the people who are dying. How would that be too many people? Wouldn't that be the same amount of people?
That's actually incorrect. So what I'm saying to you is that the amount of people who are on planet Earth right now are slated to significantly decrease down to maybe half or below what the current status is right now. Okay, well, I've just linked the article over to China's population right here.
What about world
population? This is the projection. Now, the world population, the UN projection was at 6 billion. However, the trend is very, very quickly going the other direction. I can send you an article on this as well.
Telling as the world.
So they're saying that it could be reduced to as little as 3.5 billion to 4 billion. They don't know.
These are speculative numbers that don't actually tie in with the broader consensus. Look,
well, what's not speculative though is the number of or what the birth rate is at for the percentage of the population.
Invariably, no matter.
Also, I saw a video the other day that suggested that China is lying about their population, that there's no way they could be at 1 billion whenever they had the one-child policy all through the years that would have got them up to that number. They said that there's no way, just statistically, there is no way that they have that number because they were, if you have one child, your population numbers will drop because it takes 2 people to make that one child. So you're halving your population right there. So how did you get up to 1 billion babies, 1 billion people, whenever you were cutting the number of people being born? It makes no sense. So I think that we're in more trouble than actually we know because some countries lie about their population just so nobody wants to fight a country that has 1 billion people, even if they really don't.
No matter what point you hit, you will hit periods of general population decline because it's not possible to perpetually maintain growth or stagnation.
Let me address this one. No, he is saying we should not have a religious framework. The psychotically disregards rights and freedoms to solely prioritize births. Well, we do have one that prioritizes safety, don't we? Men have a duty. Men have a duty to go and defend this country if we go to war. What is women's duty? Since they don't go and do that, which they should, what is their duty? Right? They just go through life with no duty and men have to do all the duties? Tell me what a woman's duty is if it's not to have children.
Stagnation. There will be waves up and down. This is inevitable. I think that what's the problem here is that this is all fake policy. There is no such thing as global pronatalism or antinatalism. You said earlier the left does antinatalism. This is nonsense.
Let me give you an
example.
example.
People have children and are able to have children in line with the material circumstances they live in? Are they educated? Do they have the money? Do they have the space in their household? Are there cultural values that incline them towards having more children or not? These are the things that we can do and control. Now, if we're to have a discussion on what we should promote, here's something I think we could do. Okay.
No. Let me respond to these 2 points because both of them are inaccurate. The first one is the 2 points that you smuggled in. The first point that you smuggled in was that people can only have children based on material conditions. Not true. They have children outside of the scope of their material conditions all the time. And that's why you see some of the poorest nations in the world breeding more than any other nation. So this is first of all, this is patently false. Hang on, let me finish.
I had a child outside of my material ability to have that child. We got through. It just happens. That's how most children are born.
Wait. You missed.
I let you give your argument. Let me give mine back.
You just described those are the material conditions. Material conditions doesn't mean if you're rich enough. It means that the circumstances that surround you give you the ability and inclination to do something. Poverty inclines people towards having lots of children. That is a material condition.
Oh, man. Okay, fine. Even if I grant this, okay, this kind of second thing which you smuggled in is that the left has no anti-natalist policy, but they do. They're the by far the.
Here we go. Women and men both should share duties of protecting this country and raising children. We should push for women in the military and normalize men becoming caretakers. That's not Christian. No. We should have women in the draft. If you're gonna vote on who we go to war with, you should go and fight that war too. You're not some princess. If you want to vote for us to go to war, good. You should get drafted just like the boys. Why not? I thought we were equal.
The largest advocates of abortion everywhere on planet Earth. That's a left-wing socialist policy for sure. Even back to its roots, it was a socialist policy. There's no doubt that that's true. They're the ones who dropped the population bomb all over planet Earth via helicopter in order to get people to stop breeding. Yes, they have had significant anti-natalist policies. It's absurd to say otherwise.
So you're saying that giving people the choice as to whether or not they want to have children, it leads to a decrease in how many children people have?
Well, again, this is a smuggled in premise.
I'm just asking you.
You're not giving them the choice. You're saying you can't kill your offspring. There's a distinction to be made.
The legality of abortion is giving people the choice to have or to not have children. It leaves out the possibility of accidentally having children.
This is your bad worldview. No. You're making the assumption it's not murder.
Stop complaining that literally anything that doesn't immediately pre-pack your framing into it is some kind of biased question, okay?
Well, then don't complain immediately that I accept your framing as being true.
My framing is that if people have the option to abort a fetus, that they will have less children. I think that people should want to have the children they have.
Then you should want to have that sex. So if you want to have that sex, that's something that can happen. You tell a man he's got to go get a job whenever he gets a girl pregnant. Why should a girl have a right a man doesn't? Does that make sense that a woman can just disregard her rights and duties to raise that child and just go murder it? And the man, he can't do anything? Is that fair? Again, I thought we were equal.
So I want to build a society in which maybe people have more children, but they're amped about it. And what that means is supporting material policies, like, for example, free childcare, or better tax credits, or legal mandates for corporations to provide maternity and paternity leave. Those are examples of things that socialists tend to support and would massively increase the viability of having children, even in an industrialized country. That's real politics.
If that's true, then how come in the nations where these things are implemented, you have not seen the birth rate make a recovery, Vaush?
Well, I think that there's more to it than that.
Right. So then why are you giving me policies that don't work? I don't care.
They do work.
Isn't that always the answer whenever a leftist idea doesn't work the way it was supposed to? Well, there's more factors we got to look at.
Policies that work.
They do work.
Well, then show me how they work.
Okay.
And where they work.
Wait, do you need me to explain to you how state subsidized daycare makes it easier for people to have kids?
Why? It has not done any reversal to the birth rate in the nations which have implemented it.
Yes, an OnlyFans girl is not going to have that fetus deletus because, she can get free childcare in a couple of years. Sure.
Well,
sure.
Do you have data that demonstrates it as absolutely
yes,
no
the birth rate. Which nation would you like to cite? And I'll give you the birth rates and that they're on the decline. Absolutely.
What specific policies? Wait, hold on. They're on the decline. Is it possible they would be more on the decline if it wasn't for those policies?
It's possible.
Then how do you know? Wait, no, that's so you even confidently say you have
even
data
if it were, but even if it were, they don't. You say that these are the policies which would reverse the trend. They don't reverse the trend.
I can give more. So
they give more.
Sure. A lot of it also has to do with work culture. Even in a society in which people are given the opportunity to have children with state mandates and subsidies and what have you, there's a huge issue of like people lose out economically on a lot by having children. A lot of this also has to do with like keeping dads in the home, right? Like if a dad takes 6 months off work, even if it's part of paternity leave, that is a rough sell economically, and it can disincentivize their future promotions. I think that we should have a
I've never met anyone who got 6 months of paternity leave, especially as a man. 6 months? Women don't get that much.
culture that is much more permissive towards people not being nonstop 24/7 workaholics, because that shit kills families. Not only does it prevent people from having kids, it also fucks up the kids if they are born.
This is a
because dad's always out
restatement
of the
of the
house.
same exact claim. You're giving a material position to this, and yet in the places where you have these material positions, like France, for instance, where you have a reduction in the work week and you do have these types of childcare programs, you still see the collapse in free fall of their birth rates. This is not reversing these
Collapse-
trends
Wait, hold
whatsoever.
on. One second. France birth rate over time. You use very scary words like collapse and
Yes, draft everyone if you want. We only should support the draft if it is necessary. What's fair and equal is everyone in the community to support each other. Okay, I'm on board with that. As long as women get in the draft too and have duties, I have no issues with that. Good point.
free fall. And I just
Yeah,
want to
free
make sure
fall.
that it looks
Look it up
like
yourself.
it looks like hold on one second. It looks like it's been holding roughly steady for decades.
What?
Work
Send
for
it in the
1,000
private chat.
people.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, wait, I have it shown here. So it looks like in percentage increase and decrease, there's been like a 2% aggregate decrease since, wait, hold on. So it's in the year of our Lord, what year is this? Wait, hold on. Sorry.
2020.
2000. Right. No, 2000. 12.7. And then right here, you had down to 1. So I
So
guess
as
it's
of
reduced by a
2020,
couple of
France was at
percentage.
1.83 births per woman. That's not even replacement rate, Vaush.
Mhm.
You have nothing
they have-
here.
Okay, but what's
Yeah, that was his point. That it's pretty much in the whole world except Muslim countries and like third world countries, the only ones that have positive. Yeah, that was their point. They said that earlier.
the rate over the past few decades?
You need
Also,
to have
they
at
have
least
immigration.
2.2. But even if that were true and the rate were still decreasing past your policy implementation, it hasn't reversed it. It
Wait,
hasn't done what you want it to do, man.
So wait, again, you don't seem to understand how this data works. The whole point of like inferring causality and why it's bad is that you don't know whether or not these would have been worse otherwise. So I'm looking at macrotrends.net on the France fertility rate, where it seems like back in 1978, they had 1.86 births per woman, and right now they have 1.86 births per woman. There's been about a bunch of like fluctuation, but over the past 45 years, the French birth rate has stayed basically the same. So I don't like
You're
it when you
talking
use things
about
like
a
collapse and
negligible
free fall.
difference right now
Over
at 20
40 years, stability. 40 years
in the
of
year in the year 2020. The United States at 1.64 birth
Well,
rate,
I thought we were
and
talking about
France is
France.
only negligibly at 1.8. This is a negligible distinction,
Wait, we were
utilizing the
talking
same
about-
policies that you advocate for.
We were talking about France, and I just don't like you using terms like collapse and free fall when what we actually see is total stability over the past 40 years. I mean, that's
No,
not
we
really
don't.
collapse and
In
free-
fact, I'm pulling it. Their birth
I
rate
can
looks
link it to
exactly
you.
like, bro. Their birth rate looks exactly like ours. It has been collapsing since World War II. There's
Okay,
no
wait,
doubt
hold
that
on.
I'm looking at the data.
Okay, wait, I'm going to link you this really quickly so you can see what I'm seeing, because I feel like
Okay.
we're talking past each other a little bit.
If you want to share the
perhaps you-
screen, just add it and I can share the screen. That's fine
Here,
too.
well, I've just linked it.
Well,
You
no,
can-
just
you
put
can-
it in the private chat, and I'll get a look at it here.
All right, it's
There.
in there.
I've linked it. I've linked it right there. And as you can see, the French birth rate has remained stable for nearly 45 years now, which is pretty significant, I feel. Unless I'm misreading this data, but it was at
Probably so.
1.86 per woman back in 1978. And it's the same today. So again, like free fall and stability
Okay,
are opposites.
1.5. So, okay, so we see
He's not understanding. They went 30 years with a declining birth rate. So yes, the fact that it's still declining at the same rate, that's is your point. If it's not 2.2, it's declining because you have to have 2.2 to replace the people who are passing away. That's just how graphs work.
a historical collapse. We see in the UN projections and yet another collapse. So no, listen. This is still a collapse.
Wait, what collapse? I'm looking at a horizontal line. What is your definition of collapse? Where's the collapse?
Yeah, so I'm going to send you over the counter data because this is not correct.
In the data, okay, so you're contesting the data, but in the data that I'm looking at that I just sent you, the macro trends link, you would agree that this is not a collapse. This is stability, right?
According to this particular projection, what I see is a massive free fall, which happened. You would agree that that's a free fall, right?
Well, it decreased. Free fall implies like a lack of stability when in fact our countries are the
most stable, so it goes down. Okay, so it starts at 2.8 and it goes all the way down to 1.8. That's a significant
free fall is like panic language. It's like woman stuff, you know.
And then it goes down to 1. Okay, fine, whatever the language. You don't like the language.
It's important. It's like saying like the number of horses used in public travel free fell after 1920, and it's like, okay, it didn't really free fall. It decreased. But I don't like, because free fall implies some kind of like catastrophic event, you know?
And now we see no horses on the streets. Good point, Vaush. After the automobile was introduced, they stopped using horses. And as that happened, the decrease slowly led to no horses on the street. See? That's the point.
And do you see on your line graph that you gave me where it says the word current? If you hover your mouse over there, do you see in the 2023 boxed into the red, what does that say?
Minus 0.05%. Yes.
Right. So it's still on a slight negative trend down, even according to your data. However, I'll give you data from the UN, which still predicts this free fall.
At that rate, in 100 years, it would not have even reduced by 0.1 births per woman.
Yeah, so this is France's birth rate fell by 7%, 7%, and continues to decline according to the French National Institute for Statistics and Economic Studies. 24,000 fewer. Yeah, I'll send it over to you via the private chat. Yes. So this, I would have to dig into your fertility rates to understand if maybe there was an offshoot there.
I just Googled it. I know that there was a significant decrease in the Western world's birth rates as we moved into modernity, post World War II, such and such, for sure. But since then, I feel like the numbers have been more or less stable, though there is some.
They're not stable.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so the problem here is that this is a panic article. Why on earth would you ever try to assess a nation's average birth rate, but with a single year of data?
Dispute the numbers.
So, okay. So the way numbers work is if you want to analyze trends of stuff like birth rates in a nation that go forward and backward decades, you try to use like larger aggregate data rather than
like global data.
Sure, like over decades and decades.
So let me give you the global data.
The global data shows the population is increasing. But again,
a quick aside here. The reason this leftist doesn't want population numbers to go up, other than the fact he hates women having duties, is the fact that they want to import as many people from third world countries as they can so that they can start winning elections. So that's why he's arguing so feverishly for this, right? That's why it's going to get heated.
No, what does the global data show about birth rates, though, Vaush?
The birth rates are decreasing. The population is increasing.
So can you perpetually have a birth rate which decreases and a population which increases, Vaush?
No, but I don't want a population to increase.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
That was a computer issue. I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
This is internet crapped out.
You might recall this.
Then prove that you have no understanding of thermodynamics.
You can't smoke a cigarette and like sip whiskey out of a skull glass and then like pretend that we haven't arisen like a problem here. You need to explain to me how you don't think it's an issue to exponentially increase the human population.
No, my ask of you was, you made the claim that this would be a problem if every woman on planet Earth had 6 children. I asked you why that would be a problem because that's your claim.
And I said, and you might recall this, I said because
Muslim countries' populations are declining because of bombs. They're not declining because of, I mean, they're probably having as many kids. They're just not living. That's a different issue. And what's up, Russell? Glad to see you here, bro.
We have a finite amount of space, and if we do that, we would bring the human population beyond a sustainable level.
Okay, so I could agree with you in theory.
This is such a silly conversation.
So hang on. So I can agree with you. I can agree with you in theory that would be true if it was perpetual with like you know, this was
I
for
didn't say
every
that.
single woman forever.
Andrew,
that,
I
yes,
said
that would likely happen.
said
But
we can't have a 6 children per woman birth rate forever, and you asked why not. Now,
Yeah.
don't pretend you didn't say
yeah,
that.
but do you know why I did that? I asked
Why'd
you
you do that?
this because I wanted you to land on the number which is sustainable.
Which is
I don't know. I'm asking you.
what I
Because
don't.
you say X
so
is not
you do-
sustainable. I can agree to that, but what number is sustainable?
So your argument then is that we should magically make women produce a exponentially larger number of children until we just eventually happen to hit the maximum possible amount of children or like people we can have on the planet, and then we have what, a bunch of like war and resource conflicts. We're running out of drinkable water as it is in many.
I haven't even put forward a
Sorry about that.
policy. Why are you arguing
I
against
know,
straw
because
men?
you have nothing.
You're arguing against straw men.
No.
Ask
I'm
me for a
arguing-
policy
I'm
instead, and I'll ask
arguing-
you for one.
I've asked you for policies multiple times. I've
Okay,
provided half a dozen.
if you want a specific pro-natalist policy, which I have, would be eliminating abortion. That's
Okay,
a pro-natalist policy.
Phenomenal. I don't care. I think that if people are going to
Well,
have
you don't
children,
care,
they
but
should-
I haven't given you any
they should-
policies.
No,
right?
no. It's been like 40 minutes and it's all been vibes from you. It's all been like, well, I think it should be like this. Tell me
You mean
why
arguments?
an infinite number of
You mean I've
humans
given you
wouldn't be a
arguments?
good idea. But you haven't even provided an argument for why we should just catapult the human population to the maximum possible level this planet can hold. Like, morally.
Well, first of all, I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you to push it to the maximum limit. What I said to you is that what we have seen as a trend, and I'd love to see you disagree with this, is that more people equals less starvation, as opposed to when there was less people and more starvation. And every single scientific study I've seen on this proves that this is true.
Is that a causative relationship?
Even the vegans know that this is true.
Is this a causative relationship, or do you think that
yes, it's
changes
a
in
causative
distribution
relationship.
So,
Yes.
so you're saying that even though we already have enough food to feed all humans on Earth right now, we need more people to make more food to feed more humans, so we have less starvation than the theoretically none we could be having right now?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of loaded presuppositions
Can
there.
you
The first loaded.
Let's see, Angela. Russia and Hungary eliminating and limiting abortion did not increase the population. False. That's 100% false. If they eliminated that, I guarantee you some of the population did go back up. That's just a false statement. So I'm going to start ignoring you if you keep saying silliness. Jesus.
Presupposition. Don't cut me off when I answer your question.
Well,
It was
you're
your
not
question.
answering the question. Which
I'm
is the
answering
problem.
it. So first of all, your loaded presupposition there is nobody said that we even have enough food right now for the entirety of the population. You just smuggled that in.
No,
But
we
second,
do. I think
it's the
said earlier.
ginormous cost of human labor, which is what allows that food to go all over the world. The United States, for instance, massive exporter of food. We are an importer of food as well. Other nations are, but it's due to the fact that we can export and import. You can get things like salt and
What does
pepper and
this
all of
have
these
to
other
do with-
different things.
So-
How do you think salt mines work? How do you think
So-
food is gathered?
Wait, hold on. We already have food. You're arguing that we need 30 billion people on Earth in order to get things that
Well, we would
already
at
have.
least need to sustain the current population.
We can. We have enough to.
Well, then why is the birth rate going down, genius?
What?
How are you
I'm
going to
sorry,
sustain
wait,
it?
whoa,
If
so
your
wait,
argument is
wait,
birth
Andrew,
rate goes
Andrew,
down,
I
then-
sincerely want to know what on God's green earth are you arguing right now? I genuinely have no idea.
You
what the fuck you're
said
saying.
to me, why is
We
it that
already
we should
have
keep
the
it
things you're
sustained?
talking
So I
about.
tell you why we should keep it sustained. You say we have enough workers and food right now. However, if the birth rate's too low and the population goes down, we won't have those
Population is
workers,
going up.
right?
The
No,
population
no.
is currently increasing.
And it's hang on, and it's slated to do what?
All right, this is the last one I'm going to do. I'm going to let the comments go be the comments when I'm done. But I'm going to pull up one more from Angela because she's not understanding. Okay, yes. Whenever you stop people from murdering babies, it does tend to lead to more babies. I'm sorry you can't understand that, but it does. It just does. Peace.
But soon.
Um,
Go which
the-
way? Up
the
or
birth
down?
rate- Some people say that it's going to decrease, which would happen if we hit
Some
the
people
maximum
say.
population as well. You realize that if we
I'll
had
tell
a
you what,
gigantic
show me a
wait,
single
please,
credible
please, I
scientific
can't,
source that
I
says
can't
it's gonna
listen
go
to
up.
your irrational rambling for that much longer without arriving at something that even
You mean
resembles a
completely
point.
rational arguments you can't refute?
No, not even remotely. So
Yeah,
you
well, then
realize that
refute
even
one.
if we had a gigantic population boom and we plateaued at what, 35 million, there would still be constant fluctuations in the overall population, which would have their own economic cycles, crises, and
Stop
rejuvenations.
trying to shift the topic. We were exactly where
wait.
we
Wait.
You
So
asked me
you're
about
saying,
lowering. You said
oh
we
my
have enough
God,
people now.
you
Here's
can't answer
Vaush's exact
anything.
word. Here's
Andrew,
Vaush's exact
Andrew,
words. We
you're
can
saying
we
all
can
of this
sustain.
needs
Write
to be
this.
done.
Stop cutting me
You're
off,
saying-
Vaush. Let me
Andrew,
finish, and then you
Andrew,
can talk.
You cut me off. You're saying
Okay,
that
you
all
tell
of
me
this
when
needs to
you
be
give me
done.
the signal for when you're done talking, and then
Okay.
I will go ahead and refute what you're saying.
All right, it will be a while. So you're saying all of this needs to be done to avoid the problems associated with population decrease, but that would also happen even if we hit the maximum carrying capacity of the planet, because population fluctuations are an inevitable part of all human civilization, depending on a variety of internal factors. So we would never even be fully rid of the problem of the population occasionally decreasing. That's one. For two, you've made the argument that we need more people to feed more people. This makes absolutely no sense. We have enough resources on the planet as it is, and we're going to run into more resource issues the more people we have.
Then why is there starvation in the world? There should be no problem for global hunger then, right?
Because in addition to climate change literally eating up millions and millions of square miles of like arable population-filled land, we also have the broader problem that these are not like problems we need to solve right now. We already have the resources necessary to feed as many people as we want within our own population. If you want to increase the population, again, this isn't like a policy first issue. If you
He keeps saying increase. We're trying to increase it back to replacement levels. You're acting like we're trying to get everyone to just have 10 kids. No, we need everyone to at least have 2.2, right? Which means 3.
you want, there are policies that you can promote. And if people are happy and feel like they can, maybe they can have more children. But the idea of like, we need to drop everything right now
Let
and
me
change
respond.
everything. No. Wait, I said I'd tell you. The idea that we need to drop all sensible policymaking and forget about socioeconomics as a concept just so we can pursue this arbitrary goal of inflating the population, creating, by the way, massive resource conflicts, because quadrupling the human population within a century or two would inevitably lead to massive conflict, because those gains would not be distributed evenly across populations, people with different territories that wouldn't be fully settled. So we're causing all these problems for what? If you want to ban abortion, just say ban abortion. Like, don't, it's like,
I already
it's like
have.
earlier,
But
well,
now
earlier,
back to my argument.
Angela, I tell you what, you got a lot to say. My X account is Aries Van Dam. Go hit me up and we'll schedule a debate. I invite you.
didn't say, wait, you said,
Are you ever going to give the fucking signal?
Discipline. Well, I told you to take a while. Discipline is being a man, making promises and filling to those promises. Okay, so you have to wait a bit longer. Earlier on in your opening statement, you whined about the left and
Just a gish gallop, Vaush. Let me respond to your point.
Well,
So listen, this is ridiculous. Your initial argument was such.
Conservatism.
Hang on. Your initial argument was such. What you said was this. You said we already have enough people to sustain. You just made the argument again, by the way. We already have enough people to sustain this, and we can deliver global food because there's plenty of food right now with the current population we have. But you also agree that the population is slated to go significantly down by the birth rate. You know this. You've conceded that it's true. These two things cannot make sense together. You can't say, why are you advocating a pro-natalist policy when we already have all the people that are required in order to deliver all this food? Well, because in the future, don't cut me off, didn't cut you off. In the future, we're not going to have this population. We can see it in all the trends, including the UN forecast. That's why we need a pro-natalist policy. And you, the materialist, is still arguing against it, even knowing that that's true.
I don't think you have pro-natalist positions. I think that what you're talking about would actually wreak devastation and mass death on an unprecedented scale.
Which part?
But thankfully, it doesn't matter, because what you're saying is gobbledygook. It's nonsense. The idea of like, what's my first policy position? Make more babies. How about this? Take an average American man, good old earnest man. Okay, how are your policies going to make his life better? Okay, we're talking about a voter. A good old boy. How is he benefiting from this scheme to, if we had 30 billion people, then we could feed 30 billion people?
That was not my scheme. You just, again, one more time, you're completely mischaracterizing and strawmanning my position. I never made the affirmative statement that we needed 30 billion people on planet Earth. You just made the thing. You made it up out of the blue so that you could argue with a straw man. It's bad faith tactics, by the way, Vaush, but they won't work.
You aren't making any affirmative.
So again, I'll go ahead and make the affirmative statement for the policies that I would want to see. Yes, I would absolutely be against abortion. that would be a number one, and that would be a pro-natalist policy, not an anti-natalist policy. You haven't made an argument for how that would be anti-natalist. That's insane. And then how this would benefit streamline America is we need to have workers ourselves here. We need to have a replacement rate for our own population in order to sustain itself. Other populations, which we recruit immigrants from, they're also in free fall collapse. You cannot, and you might take issue with the language, but they're in at least a birth rate collapse. You can't endlessly take from other populations, which are also in collapse. This is a serious and significant global problem that needs to be addressed. It's beneficial to everyone.
Vaush thinks they got an endless supply of Mexicans. And eventually, if you keep importing just Mexicans and your population's decreasing, eventually America becomes Mexico. Won't that be wonderful?
Everybody to address it. Also, if you're just looking at the simple metrics for women, women are happier with children. Across the board, this is true. They are happier and report their happiness level as being higher with children. There's no study that shows otherwise.
Is that a
Pew,
positive
again,
bit of research there, or is it just women with children tend to be happier? Is it causative or correlative? Do you know the difference between the two?
Yeah, but what are you talking about?
Is it causative or correlative?
In this particular case, according to Pew, anyway, it looks like it's both causative and there's a correlation there.
Okay, can you tell me what the difference is between a causative and a correlative?
Yeah, one causes and one's a correlatory. There's lots of correlatories, but correlatories can be part of a cause too, Vaush.
Okay, so what in the study indicates that they, in Pew Research polling, this is extraordinary. I've never heard that Pew Research
because they ask them before you had kids, were you happy?
It's hard to say that with Destiny out there.
And they went, no. And then they said, well, after you had the kids, were you happier? And it wasn't due to the kids. And they said, yes. That's how.
Okay. So quick question. Do you think it might be beneficial to the happiness of those mothers that they actually chose to have those kids? Like, do you think that a mother who was forced to have a child might be less happy with that child because the abortion was outlawed?
Tough shit. Sounds like a consequence, don't it?
Well, that's not force.
That is forced to have a child. Right now,
no, that's not force.
Nope, that's consequence of the shit you decided to do. Just like men have consequences when they have sex and a baby results. Don't men have consequences? Why shouldn't women have those consequences?
Mother can choose to stop.
What if a man doesn't like the baby that she has? Like, why is it always women? Like, that's all you care about.
Complaining about the framing. Do you not understand?
Then stop lying about the framing. It's not forced. Tell me how it's forced.
I'm sorry. Listen, I live in a world of facts and not feelings. And the idea that the state preventing a woman from having an abortion is not forcing them to have the child is just lunacy. I'm sorry. I don't subscribe to your feminine Christian delusion.
You need to explain how it is.
No, because
that is forced.
It's a reframing because you want to argue about abortion. And the God's honest truth is that I just don't care what your opinion is on it. I want you to answer the question.
I already answered your question. It's not forced. So I reject the premise.
That's not the question. Do you not understand how a woman who has been forced to have a child, as opposed to choosing to have a child, might be less happy with having that child? I've already answered this twice. It's not forced. That's not answering the question. Yeah, it is answering the question.
A better question is, why would I give a fuck about if she's happy? It's her consequence. You had the sex, now you have the baby. If you don't want to do that, don't have the sex.
Okay, if it's not, then
you literally can't. When
the moderator talks, just everyone be quiet. I'm just going to quickly
go right ahead, Alex.
So the actual question, you don't like his framing of using the word force, which is fine. But the point Vaush is trying to make, don't you feel that babies whose parents didn't really want to have them are going to be more suboptimal to parents whose babies did want to have them? That's the actual larger point. That's the question he's trying to ask you.
Okay, if you're making the correlatory there that there could be some increase in women who are unhappy because they weren't allowed to have an abortion, I can accept that framing.
That was the question
sure.
that I asked. Yes.
Yeah, sure. I can accept that, but who cares?
Oh, well,
it's tangential.
Well, that's interesting because this whole time you've been disingenuously pretending you care about increasing the happiness of women, and now we get that. So, yeah.
It's tangential.
That's my point. I know you don't care about the happiness of the people involved. You just want Christian nationalism because...
Okay, you tricked me with this one, Angela. I said I wasn't going to get back to the comments. I don't even understand what that fucking says. Go message me on X and we'll get to that debate.
It's the preferred brand of fascism.
No, I'm saying that this particular argument is tangential. Whatever it would be for a reduction in happiness would be negligible in comparison to what society gains by outlawing abortion.
Oh, wait, compared to what society gains. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're not actually talking about
Christian ethics is a holistic approach to society.
You
just
open
so you know.
this whole thing by talking about what would make people happier. And now when we're on a topic that, well, you're like, oh, well, actually it would make people less happy, but who cares? Society would
Yeah,
gain.
I'm not a utilitarian. Happiness is not my ultimate anything. That's part of your worldview.
What you are then is a liar.
He's trying to find a way for women to be happy whenever they have to have consequences. And that's never going to happen. Women have to have consequences just like men have to. That's just reality. I don't understand why some men, or reasonable facsimile of a man, have to think that women's happiness should be supreme over everything else, including the continuation of the human race. I just don't fucking get it.
Because initially you framed this as a way of increasing people's happiness. What could we do to make people happier? Well,
No,
I think
that's ridiculous.
Then,
Me saying that
whoa,
this is
whoa,
an
whoa,
added benefit.
Wait, hold on, calm down. It's fine. And then when
It's
you're
an added benefit, Vaush.
and then when after much prying, you acknowledge that there is an element of forcing birth that would make people less happy.
No, there's no element of forcing birth.
You're like, well, actually, I didn't really care about that. I know this is why your ethics are ungrounded.
No, my ethics are the only ones which are grounded. Tell me, what's a util?
What? Hold on. What do you want to maximize for?
I'm not a utilitarian.
So wait, what do you want?
For me, for Christian ethics, that would be a sequence of duties and overlap in virtues.
Okay, and making people happy is not one of those duties and virtues.
I just said there's overlap.
Overlap. Okay, so what are they?
Like all ethical systems have overlap. Like a utilitarian such as you, there's overlap with duty. Correct?
It's not a matter of overlapping.
No, it's a matter of overlap.
Is an axiomatic value.
Wait. It's an axiomatic value that there's no duty for utilitarianism?
I don't know what you're referring to when you talk about duty. Utilitarianism isn't very purgatory when it comes to stuff like that. Duty.
It's not. Then tell me what a util is. Then tell me what a util is.
It's about maximizing for the values that you have an axiomatic preference towards.
And do people have a duty? Do people have a duty to fulfill those utils?
That's a very complicated question. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't answer the question, can you?
It's philosophy. There's not exactly a right or wrong answer. You have belief.
There's no duty to fulfill your utils, Vaush?
Well, it really genuinely depends. Yeah. Could you dedicate like 19 hours of your day every single day to converting one single person and saving them from the fires of hell? You could. That might, in fact, be a responsibility, depending on your sect of Christianity, to save those from oblivion, from whether or not you believe in purgatory or damnation or whatever.
Yeah, so is there a duty for people to enforce the utils? Now you're avoiding my question, right, Alex?
Wait. I asked you a question.
And I asked you one. I answered yours and asked you one. Now answer mine. Do you have a duty? You said there's no overlap. Overlap is just silly to say. Is there overlap with duties in utilitarianism or not, Vaush?
I don't understand what you're asking. What time is the plane? The question that you're asking.
No, I'm asking you if you believe that the thing people should do should maximize utility. Do they have a duty then to maximize utility or not?
That really depends on which subset of utilitarian ethics.
That depends on what you mean by the thing you're asking me. That I asked you to explain what you mean.
You asked, so let me explain to you what the concept of ethics is. If you ask me how I root my ethics and what I think people should do, I can answer that. I don't know why you screeching about duty and overlap.
I don't root your ethics.
I don't think you know what these terms mean.
Oh no, I know what they mean. Root your ethics for me.
So
then ground them.
Hold on, I can't let you run away from what I asked you. What do you want? What outcomes do you want?
I don't. I've already told you that my worldview is not based solely on outcomes. That would be utility and consequentialism.
There's a highly masculine logic here. It's my ethics are not tied to reality. So
what do you mean they're not tied to reality? I said they're not solely tied to outcomes.
So what are you trying?
So here's an
So if you're not a utilitarian, then you make no sense to Vaush.
Example of this. I'll give you an example
so
that you understand. And you're going to answer my question. Hey, Vaush, I just answered yours. Vaush, I'll ask you this directly. Is it immoral? Is it immoral for somebody to have sex with a dead body? Is that immoral to do?
Do you think it is?
Yes.
Okay, so explain to me why.
I think you have a duty not to do so via divine command.
Where does that duty come from?
It's divine command. Now back to where I was at. You need to answer. No, I just answered 4 of your questions. Now answer mine.
No. You haven't. You keep
evading and answer. Is it immoral or not?
Vaush, to be fair, Andrew did answer your question on this one, so I do think
answer mine. Is it immoral to have sex with a dead body or not, Vaush?
Yeah, probably shouldn't do that. Seems bad.
Okay, why?
Because I think that if nothing else, like leaving aside the biological answers for that, I think we have very strong cultural precepts of right for the dead. I think that this is really like touchy ground because rights of the dead is complicated because they're not like living people. But there are things even in a utilitarian framework where you can acknowledge that there is a kind of broader cultural respect that we have for subjects that go outside the purview of pure human behavior.
And
so
last question. Last question, and then I'll answer your.
Well, I just want to know what you want.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I just want to know this.
It doesn't matter.
I'm sure the law would be fine with that. They just let him not pay child support.
If all
Makes
things were
sense.
equal, and a person having sex with a dead body did not negatively affect anybody through utility, there was no negative utils that you could point to, would you be for it?
For it, I wouldn't.
Would you allow people to do it? Yeah.
Would I allow people to? I think it is unethical in that context still because of rule utilitarianism. Now, if you could stop projecting your kink onto the discussion, I would.
Why would this be against rule utilitarianism?
Because rule
That's bizarre.
I can't explain all ethical philosophy to you because
you don't need to. I know what a rule utilitarian is. So
then why are you asking me?
Because a rule utilitarian would still have to follow utils. In this particular case, at all thing equal, there is no negative utils which are applied. Your answer should be, as a utilitarian, to say that that's fine. I don't see how you could get away
because the point
regardless of rule
otherwise
utilitarianism.
Everything would just be act utilitarianism. The point of rule utilitarianism is that you have sort of social boundaries and guidelines and ethical expectations that exceed individual assessments of the
unless they
utility
give because those give negative utils.
Okay,
so that's why I said all things equal. There's no negative utils.
No, so I can't explain if you don't understand. Okay, here's a good example. Okay, imagine so it is unethical to punch somebody like out of nowhere. That's generally not good. You shouldn't do that. However, imagine a person had like divine precog and they could know for an absolute fact that if they punch this one random dude on the street, it will actually be good for them. Because when they go to the hospital for their broken nose, it'll be discovered that they have a relatively benign brain cancer tumor. So in reality, punching them will be a way to help them get treatment early and will actually save 30 years of their life. Right. Now, even under those circumstances, if we could know for an absolute fact that the consequence of punching that person would be morally good, I still think it would be morally right for them to be arrested.
And the reason you think that is because there would be societal negative utils. So that's why I said all things equal, there's no societal negative utils. Why would it not be okay from your worldview for people to have sex with dead bodies?
If you are detaching this from ethics so much to the point where even rule utilitarianism doesn't have any consideration, you might as well be asking if it's ethical to fuck a corpse in a dream. Like you're asking about something that can't happen in reality. In reality, the consequences of rule utilitarianism.
I'm sure in morgues that happens quite a bit in reality.
Analysis would always apply because you're always subject to the.
Do you know what a hypothetical is? A hypothetical is not designed necessarily to be mapped onto reality.
Can you please just tell me what outcomes or what anything you want to do to reality?
I've already told you multiple times. First thing I would do is stop abortion. Second thing I would do is put a halt on underage people being able to be allowed to have unfettered access to pornography on the internet.
No, wait. The ethics I wanted to know. So you
yes, this would be Christian ethics. Christian ethics. Do you need me to break those down for you?
No, Christian. No, well, yes, please. I want to know what you're trying to do here. So Christian
ethics work around virtues and they work around duties. And there is overlap with outcomes sometimes because duties sometimes lead to outcomes which can be negative, and so you adjust duties accordingly. Yes.
What tells you what a duty is?
This is divine command for us Christians.
Yeah, so what tells you? How do you know?
We would know this through church authority.
Through church authority?
Yes.
So just any old pastor, like your whole ethical system would change?
No, churches are a whole holistic system. There's only two churches which exist, the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. There's a series of...
Wait, are you Catholic or Orthodox? Out of curiosity,
I'm Orthodox. There's a series.
Yeah, I'm sure. Wait, when did you convert?
2 years ago.
Oh, I bet. I'm sure. Okay.
What does this have to do with anything? Do you have a refutation or not?
A refutation of what? Of what argument? Of what logic?
Whatever you're
that there's only two whole holistic churches.
Yeah, I'd say that there are like a fucking million Protestant churches. Yeah.
How can a Protestant church operate as a holistic church if they don't recognize church authority?
What is that? They are their church authority.
They can't be their church authority because they believe in sola scriptura. They get all of their ethical commands through the Bible alone.
Cope laugh.
Okay, so hold on really quick. So do you think hold on, which is correct then? The Catholic or the Orthodox church authority?
The Orthodox Church authority is correct. Yeah.
Okay, so not the Catholic.
Even
so
the Catholics recognize that the church authority of the Orthodox is also correct.
Okay, so you agree then with the precepts of the current Pope and all the statements that he's made?
No. They agree with us. We don't agree with them.
Whoa, hold on. He was chosen by God, was he not?
No.
Then where in the Orthodox Church?
One more time. You're not listening. So just listen, and you'll.
He was chosen by a bunch of old Italian priests.
Get this. The Catholics agree with us and our church
Cardinals.
doctrine. We don't agree with theirs.
So your doctrines are different.
Yes, we don't have popes, but they
agree with
concede that we have correct theology and church authority. Yes.
Even though you disagree with them. How does that work?
We don't agree with them. They agree with us. I just said this 4 times.
So, right, you've said it, but it doesn't.
What are you, bro?
If they think
Guys,
that
I would generally like to avoid.
I want to know. Like, this is
I
like.
just said this 4 times.
So you've said it, but it doesn't make sense. So
how does it not make sense?
I'm trying to explain.
Vaush agrees with me, but I don't agree with Vaush. What's wrong with that statement, Vaush?
So considering the fact that churches...
No. What's wrong with that statement, Vaush? Answer my question, Vaush. Stop pivoting from every question I ask you. I just answered all of yours.
Come on. If you get so triggered, we can't even talk. There's no point.
Bro, you just pivot. Stop pivoting. Stop pivoting.
Let him finish answering.
Won't he answer? You won't force him answering mine. Only me answering his. So force him answering mine now.
Hang on. I literally did that like 10 minutes ago. I forced him to answer the question. Let's just let him ask his question. I promise you. After that, if he doesn't answer your question, I will force that as well.
Ask Vaush. Why does it make no sense?
Sure. Yeah. Because churches, and I know this for a fact with the Catholic Church, not only are there like different groups of the Catholics, right? It's not just one group, and there are groups of the Catholics who don't agree with the Pope and this, that, the other. But also considering the fact that churches tend to have pretty holistic worldviews when it comes to all of the precepts of their religious text and authority and all the ways in which they should act and all their ethical precepts, the idea that the Catholic Church could just wholesale endorse the Orthodox Church while the other way around doesn't really work. If the Orthodox Church believes things that are contradictory to the Catholic Church couldn't endorse those contradictory practices. That doesn't help me understand. I'm curious.
They agree with us, and they agree with our doctrine. We do not agree with their doctrine. So it's like Vaush saying, I agree with everything Andrew says. Okay, but I'm still going to live my life and whatever differently than how Andrew does. Okay, you can still both of these things can be true at the same time without any problem. Now back to my question.
Now it's
my turn. Remember,
I just want to know. I've never talked to a member of the
Orthodox. I just answered your question. Now,
Vaush, let him ask the question.
I have to catch up on my religious history before I can challenge these big brain points.
Yeah. So now, kind of,
it's pretty dumb to try when you don't know what you're talking about.
Back to my question. Yes, there's only 2 churches which have actual holistic views. So Protestants, generally speaking, do not, and they actually concede that they don't because they can't. Now, when you're talking about Christian nationalism in and of itself, of course, I would always advocate for my church to be the church that was, cooperating with the government, or even in some cases being the government if necessary. But you yourself would advocate for the same thing with your communism. You don't want MAGA communism. You don't want tanky communism. You want Vaush brand. You want Vaush brand communism. So the criticism applies to you as much as it applies to me.
Andrew, is there a question there though?
I have no idea.
Okay. So the question becomes: is that not true?
Okay.
That different people have different ideas. Yes, I've noticed that happens sometimes in my
So you would advocate for your brand of this. So whatever criticism you want to give me for the fact that there's tons of sects of Christianity, this also is true of communism. You have to contend with that as much as I do.
Well, there aren't any sects of communism. There are different ideas, sure. But I guess like my curiosity would be...
What do you mean they're not sects? What's a sect?
I think that sect is a religious term, is it not? Does it just refer broadly to like different groups of people? Because if that's the case, sure, there are plenty of sects of communism.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I assumed it was like religious connotation. I don't know what this was in response to. I guess the issue is that I still have no idea what your like fundamental ethical basis is. I think that
what is Christian? Then tell me what Christian ethics are.
How the fuck should I know?
I just explained them to you.
Completely incoherent every time I talk to a Christian. So I have no idea. I will never know. I don't think. I asked you and you got mad at me. So I feel like
I didn't get mad at you. I explained them to you.
So okay,
I've seen him explain it to him before this time. He's just dumb.
Because your divine command theory come from?
God.
Okay. How do you know your God is the correct one?
Well, regardless, even if I was wrong, let's just assume for a second I was completely wrong and my God was not the correct one. This really doesn't change the question of Christian nationalism and whether I think that both the results and the things that I want to see in society would be correct. So regardless of, even if all of the beliefs from which I derive divine command would be false, the integration with the state would still be what I would advocate for, just like you, the communist. Even if your beliefs are fundamentally false, based on nothing more than your ideas, you still want to integrate them and see them in society. So we're not here to have a religious debate over whether God is real. We're here to have a debate over whether or not Christian nationalism is something that can even be done. I propose that it is, and I propose that the ideas are better than your communist outlook, which we're much closer to than we are a Christian outlook.
God willing, inshallah. Yes, of course. So again, how do you know that your God is real? Like, how do you know that you have the right set of...
Why does that, what is that? If you can tell me what this has to do with the topic of the debate, I'll engage with it.
It's
makes more sense.
Literally the foundational position of your entire ethical
Okay,
system.
well then how do you know communism is true?
Okay, sure. I mean, we can talk about my ethical system. So as a utilitarian, I believe in maximizing a set of axioms that I've arbitrarily determined to be things that I prioritize. I think that
so you don't know it's true.
I don't think you can make metaphysical assessments.
Well, then why are you asking me what's true? Who gives a shit?
Because I'm not making a determinative statement about my...
Is anything ever true?
No.
He said he wanted to maximize the most people's happiness. Do you see a lot of communist people happy? Every time I hear about a communist thing in a communist country, it's really oppressive and not happy, and they don't seem like they like it. Breadlines seem like they decrease happiness. So please tell us how this utilitarian communist makes any sense.
Wait, hold. Well, I mean, that really depends on what you mean by true. But you're the one making...
So can you know objective truths? Can you know something is 100% true? Can you know that?
It really depends on the definitions. You'd have to define all of your terms. But also, you're the one... the legitimacy of your claims sort of rests upon the idea that your moral beliefs, your duties, your precepts, your obligations, or whatever, are ones that I should respect. Whereas my axioms are things like human happiness, which I challenge you. If you don't respect things like human happiness, I would argue that you don't even have a right to be dictating policy for anybody, because...
Based on what? You just said that you're...
Does killing the population make you happier? I didn't think it did.
Our system is arbitrary. So why should I respect an arbitrary system that doesn't even claim to have any sort of command other than what you come up with out of your own brain as a preference?
This is like you getting upset with somebody else because you're arguing that their decisions aren't even made by the invisible friend that you have. Like, this isn't a battle.
Who are your decisions made by? You?
So do you believe that human happiness is a worthwhile goal in terms of maximization?
I think that happiness is something that should be adjusted for, but it's not the primary duty of people to make other people happy.
Adjusted for. Okay. So do you think that a world in which people are happier is a better world than a world in which people are less happy, all other things being equal?
If all things were equal, I would say that if you had a happier population, that would be better than not having a happy...
Jeffrey Dahmer gets really happy when he gets to murder and eat people. Should we let him do that? Would that maximize happiness, dummy?
Your population, yes, than a less happy population with all things equal. Now, let me ask that question back to you. Okay, if all things were equal and people prospered, but they were less happy than a nation that prospered less and that nation was happier, which nation would you prefer to prosper? Which one would you prefer to live in?
What do you mean by prosper?
So their health is better, their dynamics are better, almost everything is better. They're just a little bit less happy than the other nation.
A little bit less happy?
Yeah, just a little bit less.
Well, I feel like those things would kind of be factored into the happiness. But if you're arguing like...
I just said all things equal, Vaush. I answered your question in good faith, answered mine in good faith. If all things are equal, one population is just slightly less happy, but the other population by every other metric is doing better than the population that's just slightly less happy.
But that's not all other things.
It's your moral imperative to go to the population which is less happy.
You can't.
Yeah, it's baked into the hypothetical. All things equal.
You can't say all things equal and then say every other thing is different.
Yes, you can. He's saying that the two things they're talking about have these two differences, but all other things are equal. Jesus Christ.
Can't ask me the same question.
Wait, hold on. I'm answering your question.
If this is the most bad faith debate tactics I've ever seen.
Oh my God, I'm answering your question. You're so like right off the cuff. You're so ready.
If the two things were also the same, then there's no comparison to make. They would also have the same happiness too, because you can't even change that. They got to be the same. He's saying one is happy, one is happier, and one is more successful, and all other things are equal, you can absolutely do that.
Then do it. Then answer it.
I was just pointing out it's funny that you would say all things being equal, but then you would say
answer
okay,
the
but every
question.
other thing is different.
Yeah.
I guess that would. I guess I'm just struggling to imagine. But if it's like
this struggle is fake. He knew exactly what Andrew was talking about because it makes perfect sense, and that's why he's trying to pretend like it doesn't, so he doesn't have to address it.
much healthier and more prosperous, I guess. I think it would
You'll
really
see this
depend
in
on other
debates.
circumstances because there are other axiomatic values that I think you could adjust for.
So then
And-
happiness is not the primary value. So then shut up,
No, it's-
Vaush. Your
no, it's
argument's
not.
stupid. Your fucking argument's stupid.
So no, it's one of them. That's why I said axioms with an S. There are multiple things that you would try to.
So why tell me, Andrew, we can't accept your
What's up,
system
Nappy?
because it doesn't make happiness the primary thing. And then when I give you the
I
same
didn't say
exact
that.
example back, you also claim happiness can't be the primary thing.
I
There's
didn't say that.
multitudes of things that you have to adjust for, Vaush.
Scary.
Okay, so what are the multitudes of things for you? What divine
So I
command
would
theory?
look at virtues. I would look at duties.
What
I would look at outcomes. I would look at all of these as
Whoa,
a
hold on, outcomes.
holistic.
outcomes.
As a
is,
holistic.
So you notice how every time I ask you for specific questions about what it is you're trying to do or what changes you're trying to make, you sort of generalize by waving your hands at this broad, vague, indeterminable like group of virtues that you probably don't actually subscribe to or believe in. Early on in this debate, you
Which
pointed to
virtues do you think I don't
Early-
subscribe to?
You haven't
even asked me what
listed
they are.
any. So I
You haven't
can't
even
know.
asked me what they are.
I have.
You've only
I've been
asked me general
asking,
questions.
dude. You can't be like, bro. You haven't. You didn't even ask. I've been
You
asking
didn't.
for like half an hour. For
No,
to
you
give
just said, give me
some
a broad, you
understanding
say,
of
give
your-
me a broad overview. And when I do, you say, why
No,
didn't you give me anything
what-
more specific?
What?
If you
Well,
have
hang
a
on.
specific,
To be fair, Andrew did say about banning abortion. That's one he gave, and the second one he gave is I know there was one more. It was something about
Children and
Those are
with
policy positions, but
he was talking about children and being able to look at pornography and the age, verifying that was his second.
right.
why?
you
That's the
asked for those too. I've answered every question you've had, and you've been as evasive as possible.
So why are these things virtues? What is a virtue? Give me an example. Policies to maximize what?
So if you're talking about virtues themselves, when you were talking about virtue as morality, virtues are the building blocks of what makes a person a person. So we're looking at the actual behaviors of the person to judge whether or not the person is moral. That would be a virtue. So
All right, let me go to the debate teaching here. See, that's a common thing. Destiny does that all the time where he's like, and he starts freaking out and stuff. They learned that on TikTok too. The TikTok debaters, Dean Withers and all those, they do the exact same thing. They freak out because that's what they've learned on TikTok. And that's why they do this.
So I can give you many of those types of virtues. I think you would likely agree with them. But with the virtue in Christian ethics comes duty. So you have a duty, for instance, to obey Lord Jesus Christ's teachings. You have duties to do these things as well. So these things work together. The church itself has given virtues, which are passed down from Christ Lord, who explains what these virtues are supposed to be and how you are supposed to act and behave in society and how you're supposed to act and behave towards other people or untowards to other people.
And why
Under
should we
your
listen?
system,
He's got to keep the money makers like nice and fresh.
why should I listen to yours? It's the same criticism
Okay,
back.
so I keep answering this, and
Yeah,
I
but-
don't
but-
think, no,
yeah,
please, you
okay,
can't keep
well, fine. I'll give you the
misunderstanding
same
me.
same answer because it's axiomatic.
That's not what I was going to say. You don't.
But
even
that's what your
understand-
answer was. Your answer was
have
just
to
that it's
earn-
axiomatic.
You have to earn the right to be blasé and dismissive about another person's ideas. You have to know what they are first. So the difference is, I don't think you can make determinative claims about the metaphysical. I think that in order to have any ethical system, you have to admit that there is a degree of arbitrarity and bias, and you have to work from that. The problem that I have with divine command theory is not that it's metaphysical in nature, because so is mine. The difference is that I acknowledge the arbitrarity, something I think everyone has to.
Why would that make it better?
You have to let me finish, because you make it up. So it's like
So
the
do
difference
you.
bet- so, no, there's a
It's the
huge
same
difference.
criticism applied. So
No,
do you.
please, Andrew, you are so ready to interrupt. Okay, so there is a huge.
Well,
difference
otherwise you'll
between-
go on a diatribe
there
for the
is a
next year.
huge- You can learn from it. There is a huge difference between saying, I don't think we can make determinative metaphysical statements. However, I do think
Is that a
if we-
determinative
Well,
statement?
Andrew, let's let Bosch finish his point, and then you can
Okay,
respond.
go ahead.
However, if we decide to prioritize these things, I think it's good for people. So, for example, I don't think it's possible to objectively. Yes, that's the point. The difference is I'm the one 10,000 years ago who says, I don't know why the lightning strikes. And you're the one who says that it must be because the gods are angry. You make fun of me for not being willing to make a statement you can't justify, but that's your weakness in my logic. So I can acknowledge
you don't have any logic
weakness of metaphysical arguments, and I think it's a necessary presupposition when discussing ethics. Your arguments rely on a presumptive statement about the metaphysical God that you can't justify, and that is the critical difference. If you asked me, how do you know that human happiness is good to prioritize for? I would answer, you know what? I don't think I can objectively prove that. I think I can gesture at what human happiness has done for the world. So then
you have nothing.
And
they sometimes forget how words work.
And I think that it makes people better. I think that it improves
so then
things.
you so
Whereas
I want to tell you. Okay, so when you're almost done, how much longer does that mean?
I'll give him another 30 seconds, and then I'll let you interrupt.
Yeah. So the difference with you is that for your positions to make sense, you're referring to like the word of God. You have to explain why that should be listened to. My argument for why my axioms are relevant is to gesture at the world and say, is happiness not good? That's the most I can do. Yours is to say, well, you also can't prove your axioms, which I know. That's the point, but you have to prove yours because otherwise you're essentially engaging in like a postmodernist defense of not believing in God while repeating his suppositions. It makes no sense.
As stated before, and you just demonstrated, any criticism you move towards me is equally applied to you. You just got done stating that your system is arbitrary. Let me finish. That your system is arbitrary, that your system is not grounded, that you yourself and your axioms cannot be demonstrated while demanding that I demonstrate mine. However, if I'm going from your worldview, which I'm just trying to do, I'm just trying to go from your worldview, the utilitarian worldview, I still can make a better case for why Christian ethics in society is far superior to your libertarian communism and have made good arguments for why that is the case, even just using birth rates, and you have refuted none of it. This is a joke. By the way, you say that you can't make a deterministic statement, which is a deterministic statement. How dumb are you, Vaush?
Again, I refer to my anecdote about 10,000 years ago watching lightning crash in the sky, where you're like, dude, yeah, I think it's the angry men in the sky. You don't even know what it is. You admit you don't know. So now you're saying that I'm wrong when I say it's angry men in the sky. It's like returning to like primeval logical fallacies. I feel like you're in, like the shadow puppets could dance on the walls in front of you and you could like have your entire ethical system be.
Well, Vaush, do you agree with me that you would not actually have to demonstrate the existence of God in order to have a nation which was governed by a church or who had a synergistic relationship with a church, even if they couldn't prove God? Because if you agree to that, then that has nothing to do with the debate, me proving God is real to Vaush.
If you want to make an argument for the existence of that state, then yeah, you kind of would need to, because why else would I care about the responsibilities laid out by Christ?
Why would we care about the responsibilities laid out by utilitarians, which are arbitrary and can't be demonstrated by the utilitarian's own mouth?
So again, I don't know how many times I can keep explaining this to you, but you seem to have a fundamental misunderstanding of what a prescriptive meta-ethical statement is. You know what I think? Hold on, because this could go on forever. And like the whining of Christians is fun up to a point. I don't think you actually believe in any of this, including the religion. I think that we saw this at the very beginning of the debate where you pretended that human happiness.
Nothing is a declarative statement is true, according to you. So
really
who cares?
do sound like a nagging wife, don't you? The way you keep talking over other people, but your voice will never be as deep as mine.
Yeah, that's me, not you.
You can't hit my lows. You can't hit my bass.
I have a degree in sociology.
Does that make you feel better?
Wait, do you have a degree in
sociology?
Are you threatened by my education? Did you know that liberals tend to be better educated?
At some point, maybe you would use it to make an argument. That'd be great.
It's like I'm trying to explain sociology to like a monkey, and it is true that my degree is failing me somewhat. So I can't convince you that you're meta-ethically retarded. Let me try this.
Okay? That's because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
You don't know what meta-ethics are, right? I agree. So it's like you'd have to do too much work to begin with. The problem ultimately is that you don't believe in anything you're saying. If a person actually believed in Christian ethics, there are a trillion things you would care to fix about the world. The cruelty and graft and vice and sin, the hatred and misery. But you are largely
That would
fine with
require
those
people.
Hold
That would
on.
require
Wait,
people.
no, wait,
Vaush.
hold on.
Andrew, he made a very strong statement. Let's let him try to explain what his reasoning is. Go ahead.
See, I know Christians. A lot of my extended family are Christians,
And I know
good
communists.
Christians too. Oh, you literally cannot help yourself.
Go ahead, Vaush.
And a lot of them, when you talk about what is sin, what is of concern of Christ, there is so much misery in this world. But I've seen your politics, and I know what you believe, and you just believe the same shit that like regular fascists believe, more or less. Like the Christian conservatism thing is often like promoted by people with a very low investment of Christianity. It's the same way that fascists wrap themselves in the flag. Before
Now I'm a
making their
fascist.
Your name was Big Papa Fascist.
Yeah, but you also know that was a debate handle. That was explained to you, and you know.
Okay,
that
gotcha.
it's true.
That was right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Wait. Can you tell me
Christian
what
nationalism-
fascist
well, hold on.
policies I want?
The Christian nationalism angle.
No, you
is
can't
just
make the claim I'm a
another way
fascist,
of,
and you claimed I'm a
framing
fascist.
Oh
You need to
my
answer for
god,
it.
dude! Is this going to be every time I talk more than 5 seconds? Like,
Well,
I can let you talk
dude,
for a while.
go back and forth
I'm
then.
talkative too, but like, holy shit! I don't think anyone who is genuinely motivated by the word of Christ could ever have a conversation like this and be like, oh, you know what I would change? Abortion. Like, there are so many trillions of things. A real Christian would be outraged at like Donald Trump's presidency, for example, because he's one of the most flagrant grifters and most openly anti-human individuals to ever occupy the office. But it's always like, oh, so what angle are you going to bring? What Christian angle are you going to bring to governance? Oh, the exact same stuff every other right-winger does, with very little emphasis on what Israel is.
So no argument.
So
but
how
back
about
to what I'm asking? Hang
so
on.
how
No.
about
How about you
move
answer
away
now for
from
your
the
accusation?
metaethical,
You
and
know,
I
you need to
ask
answer
you,
for your
what
accusation
if
now
we
that I'm a
just-
fascist.
What if we
Can you
just
tell me
talked
what
about-
fascist policy I endorse
just
or
talked about the
Real quick,
policies-
Andrew. do you
no?
want
He needs to answer, Alex.
Hang on. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what you want. Do you want to move off the previous point? and
Well,
move
first
straight
I
to
want all I'm
fascist?
asking Vaush to do. He made the qualifier. He claimed I was a fascist.
No.
I would like you to give me the list of fascism that you go
That's what I
by,
said earlier.
and
on
then what
Dahmer.
we'll do is we'll go
Yeah.
one by one and see which one of us is
So,
more fascist.
Notice how
Okay.
he wants to. Well, hold on. Notice how like he gets triggered by.
Notice
one word
how
that
he
I
made
say.
an
And
accusation and
literally-
can't back it up.
He can't do it. He like in a broader.
It
point
was
that
my
I'm
turn to
making
talk,
about
Vaush.
the
It-
political.
you
Vosh,
remember how
to-
my
to-
turn-
wait, Vosh, to be fair, I did let you talk for a while.
They do cheat.
You
Yeah.
did make
Sure.
that
Well, I'm
claim.
trying to move the argument
Yeah, so
forward.
now
It's
it's
all
my
I want
turn.
to do. And
Now it's
he's
my
trying
turn,
to-
Vosh.
I know, and
Definitely.
I'm going to move it right after we get through this. But to be
Mhm.
fair, he did make that claim. I think
He
it's
did
only
make the
fair.
claim. So Vaush, you
I-
make the claim, and what
Sure,
you do, you
okay,
do this.
yeah.
It's my turn,
Hey,
Vaush. Vaush,
Andrew,
it's my
yes,
turn,
I'll
Vaush.
answer- I'm answering. Yeah,
Hang on.
Let me finish my
So,
question.
I'm trying to answer your question.
Hang on.
Let me finish
So,
it,
Vosh-
and then you can answer it.
This is so stupid.
Well,
So one more time,
I'm gonna mute both of you.
Hang on, Vaush, you often do this during debates where you make these.
I'm muting both of you. Okay. I'm sorry. I hate doing this, but okay. So, Vaush, you did make that claim. It's a pretty strong statement. So, I think Andrew is within his rights to ask for clarification of why you want that. And after that, I promise you we can move the conversation forward. Okay. I'm muting both of you. Go ahead, Vaush.
Am I back?
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
So why-
Wait, what was the question?
Andrew's asking, why do you think I'm a fascist? What are the things that make me a fascist?
Oh, well, literally, he called himself Big Papa Fascist. But if you want like an actual, like, I don't know, reasoning beliefs, I would say that being like a political advocate for Donald Trump and the Republican Party would count towards one. I think also, I'm pretty sure, like, I didn't expect he would like pretend to be offended over this because we both know
I've been off that bandwagon, Nappy.
perfectly well he fits my definition. But I'm pretty sure that literally every time I've seen him make any prescriptive statement about politics, it perfectly lines up with what a fascist would believe in. So he's like anti-immigration. He makes statements about like the Western nationalism and like the white birth rates declining. He talks about like a need to get rid of degeneracy and imposition of like far right conservative politics as a way of getting. So he's like nodding along with all this. This was just a waste of time. He just wants to like filibuster before we
No,
get to
why are
actual-
those fascist?
oh my
policies?
god, dude. Do you want to
You
like
don't get
Getting rid of degeneracy kind of sounds nice. Why would that be a fascist idea?
to
way back
pivot.
to the
What I
definition of
want you to
fascism?
do, because you've done this. I've seen you do this several times.
How is
in
this a
debates.
policy?
Well, it's my turn,
how is
Vaush.
this- what is
I just let you
why-
talk, Vaush. My turn.
Really quick, Alex.
It's my
was it
turn,
true
not
that
really
after
quick, it's my
Alex,
turn.
After
Hang on.
I answered his question, didn't we move on? Did I not?
No,
just
it's my
answer his
turn.
question?
Vaush,
Vosh,
it's my
you
turn.
got you let him ask one or two follow-up questions. It is a fair question because you did make a,
I
pretty
answered
strong point.
it. So those all meet my standards.
He
for when I
doesn't
would call
want
someone
to
a
allow
fascist.
me to. He doesn't want me to speak.
Let's
at
let
all.
Andrew ask one or two qualifying questions, and then we can move on. I think it's only fair
Vaush,
because
you go by a list for what you consider to be fascist. Would you be willing to pull up that list and compare them with me 1v1 so that we can determine which of us actually follows more fascist policies than the other?
Dude, I
advocates
thought
for
the
them.
whole point was moving. This is like the hardest anyone has ever filibustered while talking to me. I'm sorry. In that broader point you made, you call me a fascist. Here are 17 examples of you being fascist. Can you explain to me how every single one of those is fascist? If you want to like indefinitely henpeck back and forth, I guess we can. But I consider this a concession on everything regarding Christianity.
I don't give a shit what you
because
consider a concession. Are you
well,
willing to do
I
that or
certainly-
not? Just say
certainly
no.
not.
I'm not
It's
willing
just-
to do it.
I just think it's funny that you get very. I just.
I
said
think
I'm
it's
willing to
funny
do it.
that you can make accusations and then you won't back them up because
Like,
you're a coward.
You get really angry.
Yeah,
whenever
you're a
I, like,
coward, bro.
Whenever I poke you, I've
actually
already, Andrew, I've
make
already
the
said I'll do
argument.
it. I've already.
Then do
said
it.
I'll
Then do it.
Okay. So
Stop
let me
fucking
finish what
around
I'm-
and do it. Stop being a wuss and
Dude!
do it.
He's like trying to alpha mail me. He's like, after an
Like, that'd
hour
be
and a half
tough.
of being talked over, time for me to bring out my big tape pants.
Are you gonna do it?
Oh my
You want to
God.
not be a coward?
You're still
Do
not
it,
doing it.
Brug. Can you?
You're still
can you, like,
evading.
Gosh,
project your brow forward?
it is a fair qualifying question.
Well,
I've taken,
so Alex, the problem
Sometime
is,
today, Vaush.
so Alex,
Well,
just
hang
to
on,
be clear, what he's suggesting is that for every in a broader point that I was making about him not believing in Christianity, which he doesn't, he gets upset that I call him a fascist when he literally self-labeled as a fascist.
Where's that list?
He said, hold on. He asks, hey, can you qualify that? I then list like 12 things that I say are fascist of him, which he nods along to
No, you
all of
didn't.
them. And now what he's saying is, let's go over an exact 14-point definition of fascism so that on
Yeah.
every single one we can check off every point on every claim made. Now,
And
Alex,
see if they apply to
now-
you.
Now, Alex,
Okay.
we can do this, but I did want to debate Christian nationalism, and I will admit this does just seem like a pivot away from the subject because
You called me the fascist. I didn't call you anything.
You called yourself the fascist, actually, Andrew.
Okay.
No,
hang
you
on.
called me the fascist.
Hang on. Stop. I'm going to make a reasonable compromise. We'll spend 2 to 3 minutes. Andrew can ask us qualifying questions. After that, we will move on to conversation. But for those 2 minutes,
video game?
Vaush, I do want you to answer the questions that he asked, and then we're going to move on.
Oh, sure.
To the,
Ask me direct questions, Andrew. Not like
Where do you get your definition of fascism from?
I think that like most broader socio-political definitions, you kind of pull from a wide varieties of texts. But for the most part, I refer to Umberto Eco's 14 points.
Yes, I agree that you do, and I've seen you do it. Can you
You
pull
watch my
up those
content?
14 points, and we'll go through them point by point, and I will see if they apply more to you or more to me.
Do you think we can do that in the remaining 1 to 2 minutes? That was
Let's
allotted
just
for this
pick.
topic?
You know what? Just pick your favorite two.
My favorite two.
let's just do 2. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't even acknowledge her point because one's voluntary and one is mandated by law. So it's not the same. It made no sense to me. So I didn't even acknowledge it. Outsource things, the church. Yeah. All right. I'm going to fast forward because I think it takes them a little while to do this. I watched this 2 years
Hold
ago.
on, let me find the one that actually. There we go. Not the one that just lists like the
There we go.
the simplified version. Okay, so let me read these all out loud in the spirit
pick
of
your
this
two.
debate. And
Just
I need
pick
to.
your two.
Well, I don't remember everything from that. I've only read
So
this
you
a couple
can't
hundred
pick. You
times.
can't pick two, even though you just agreed to do
Hey,
that.
Andrew, let's let them go through the list. This
Yeah.
is exactly what you want, so let's let them answer that.
Okay, so number 1 is the cult of tradition. One has only to look at the syllabus of every fascist movement in order to find the major traditionalist thinkers. The Nazi gnosis was nourished by traditionalists, syncreticists, and occult elements. Number 2, the rejection of modernism. Quote, the Enlightenment, the age of reason, is seen as the beginning of modern depravity. In this sense, Urfascism can be defined as irrationalism. Number 3, the cult of action for action's sake. Action being beautiful in itself, it must be taken before or without any previous reflection. Thinking is a form of emasculation. Number 4, disagreement is treason. The critical spirit makes distinctions, and to distinguish is a sign of modernism.
Just give me two, Vosh.
In modern
You don't need
culture-
the whole list.
Whoa!
Why are you letting him go through the whole list, Alex? He agreed to two.
Hang on.
He's filibustering the entire debate.
Stop. Okay, listen. Vaush gave like 4 or 5. Let's just work with what he gave you.
Yeah, which of those two? Which two do you want to pick, Vaush? And see, let's see how they apply only to me and not to you.
I'm not sure. I watched this one 2 years ago. I'm just doing it fresh. I just had it up there and I had to get it off my download list.
Sure. Okay. How about number 2, the rejection of modernism?
Mhm.
Do you want me to reread the quote associated with it?
The quote associated with it from whom?
I believe it's a quote from Umberto Eco. When
Make
he
sure
wrote
that
on
it
the
is, and not from a third-party source.
Okay. Pretty sure I've seen this one before, but sure. Let me see. While Echo is firm in claiming there's one. Yeah, I've seen this before in other websites as well. So it's definitely not just openculture.com that's referring to it. But if you want, sure. Let me Google search the quote. Yes, a practical list for identifying fascists from Umberto Eco. It is directly quoted from him. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Andrew, let's let Andrew address that.
So first, let's go with the rejection of modernism. Does this, in your worldview, mean a rejection of ethics, which built the society?
I was thinking video games.
Or a rejection of modernity when it comes to how society is acting?
The Enlightenment. When he talks about modernism, he's talking about modernity in the geopolitical sense.
So just enlightenment principles are anti-communist, Vaush.
That's why I didn't address it. She was talking shit about something she knows nothing about.
In his words, the Enlightenment, the age of reason, is seen as the beginning of modern depravity.
Yes, but in communism is anti-enlightenment.
No, not at all.
Yes, absolutely.
So Karl Marx is literally described as a modernist philosopher and economist.
No, by who?
Literally everyone who describes him. He objectively fits.
Literally not. No. Listen.
Sure.
When you're talking about modernity,
specifically
modernity, when you're talking about modernity, I need you to explain how it is that I reject modernity. I don't reject modernity. I reject an ethical system which I'm contrary to.
So just a moment. Okay, so I Googled, is Karl Marx a modernist? I hadn't seen this brought up before in my many classes on the subject. Marx and Engels offered a profoundly modernistic critique of capitalism. And then it's from a University of Warwick page called Modernism and Marxism.
You said postmodernist.
No, I said modernist. He's not postmodernist.
Okay, but that's what you said, just so you know.
Okay, let's let Vaush finish. Go ahead.
It says, is Marxism a part of modernism? This is from Marx and Philosophy Society, .org.uk. Part 1 in some situates Marx as a leading figure of modernism. So the thing is, Marx and communist thinkers in general, or at the very least Marx, because some communists, you can't.
You see, guys, this is why I need a moderator. Just to keep the crazy people from commenting so much like this.
That with these guys, certainly with me, are very much post-Enlightenment thinkers, born of the age of reason, and believers in liberal social values. I mean, Karl Marx was a progressive of his day, wrote to Abraham Lincoln to convince him to help to free the slaves. His writings were an attempt to hold capitalism to account for not fulfilling the promises of modernism, of liberalism.
And what about his critique that he wrote about Enlightenment humanism? And from a revolutionary ecological perspective, where he seemed to argue against these post-Enlightenment principles, which you are so adamant that only fascists hold?
No, anyone can criticize things.
And what about the fact that Marx himself was very anti-Jewish? There's no doubt that that's true either. So all of these things, these push
Unfortunately,
against...
that's been popular in both pre and post-Enlightenment Europe.
Yeah, but the thing is, Vaush, is that no, I don't think that number 2 does not apply to you. You seem to reject the modernist principles as well, at least postmodernists, and you seem to want to move towards your communist worldview. I don't see how this doesn't apply to you.
So
pick another one.
Do you agree that Karl Marx, by basically every definition you can find online, is a modernist?
No, I don't think that. I don't think when we say modernist, we're talking about postmodernist, which is what you referenced and I responded to.
No, modernist. He's a modernist.
Okay, well, Christians are modernists too. I don't know what your point is.
No, Christianity is a pre-modernist system.
But by what metric? The ethics?
No, the Enlightenment, a post or pre-Enlightenment era.
The Enlightenment ethics, which emerged. Enlightenment ethics?
Guys, I did say 2 minutes for this. We've been going on 5 minutes. I do want to redirect.
Of course. Yeah, I don't want to linger on this too long. It's about ethics and it's about political.
So again, Vaush made a claim he couldn't back up. Andrew's definitely not a fucking fascist.
Economy from Marx.
Yeah. So would you say it's the ethical distinction that makes you a modernist, or is it a rejection of the material that makes you a modernist?
Well, that really depends on why you're rejecting it. For example, like Marx rejected Hegelian thought on the ideological dialectic, but Marx is still arguably a kind of Hegelian. His rejection is an iteration upon a pre-existing trend. Like, for example, if you're Adam Smith and you're writing like, a systemic economic critique of previous like economic forms, which are themselves post-Enlightenment, you're not rejecting modernity. What you're doing is trying to improve upon it. But
so is there any problem with holding Christian ethics in modernity?
No, you are that is literally a pre-Enlightenment belief.
Why would that be a pre-Enlightenment belief? There are Christians who exist post-Enlightenment. And by the way, just so you understand, that actually doesn't make any sense on its face. Why? What Enlightenment principles?
Motherfuckers literally defending divine command theory and arguing that he's a post-Enlightenment.
Are you going to tell me which Christian
divine command theory?
Why won't you answer the question,
Alex? This is an infinite wormhole.
What ethical?
Andrew. To be fair, I did say we were only going to talk about this for 2 minutes, but what I will do is I will let you on this topic get your last.
Most Enlightenment thinkers were Christians. So that's why I'm making the distinction between ethics and what he considers materialism. Pick your second one, Vaush. This one definitely applies to you too.
Wait, hang on.
Pick your second one.
Stop. Andrew, I did say it was going to be 2 minutes. Went on for 5 minutes. What I will do is give you about 45 seconds to kind of defend yourself and explain why you disagree with Vaush's assessment that you're a fascist. And then let's move back to the original conversation at hand because it's gotten really, really off track.
I'm baffled by Dean Withers and that whole group. They've got like thousands of subscribers, like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they don't say anything but like they're the worst debaters ever. I don't even understand it.
Go ahead, Andrew.
What matters is that
the population's retarded.
Wait, Vaush,
I am.
Andrew's part.
Yeah. So when we're talking about kind of these distinctions, first of all, Vaush said postmodernist, but fine, I'll just give it into modernity itself. When I'm asking about the ethical distinction, I'm asking him which of these kind of modern practices.
He just kissed that cat's ass.
Practices he thinks are opposed to Christian ethics, or why Christian ethics itself is opposed to what he considers modernity. And I don't think he can actually do that, which is very problematic from his worldview. That's why you make the ethical distinction, then you make the material distinction when these things are talked about. So I would actually like to know the answer to this. Do you think that Christian ethics themselves are non-compatible with whatever you consider modernity to be? And by the way, just having Christian ethics, does that make you a fascist by that metric?
Okay,
so I'll answer both of those, and then we'll be done.
Let's let Vaush answer, then we'll redirect. Okay.
First of all, this is very funny because you.
If anybody can get me a screenshot of him kissing that cat's ass, I have my next thumbnail.
Are literally an advocate for divine command theory, arguing that we need to challenge and reject liberalism. You could not be more perfect a stereotype of an anti-modernist figure today or 250 years ago possible. You are literally repping the same argument. No, that is a direct answer. You are not only anti-modernist. This entire argument has been you proudly touting your anti-modernist beliefs. You are literally arguing for divine command theory.
That's not my question. My question is about ethics.
So, yeah, I went and checked. They have well over 100,000. Dean does. Parker, I think he has well over 100,000 too. They've got a big following on YouTube now. All of a sudden, they just started. It's just, I think it might be bots.
Well, so the second question that you asked, is being a Christian ethicist automatically make you a fascist? The answer is, for one, you're not a Christian ethicist, but for two, a lot of people who claim to be are fascists.
You don't even know what Christian ethics are. You just said so,
and I never will. However, by a Christian ethics, a person just means like, oh, well, the Bible says you should wash the feet of prostitutes or whatever, then no, of course that wouldn't make you a fascist. However, when people have very poor justifications for their empirical arguments, they usually defer back to something they know they won't be able to metaphysically justify. And then they can do the like, well, maybe I can't prove any of my ethics are real, but like, you can't either. And then it's like, well, why even talk about anything?
Well, right? I never made the statement that I couldn't prove my ethics were real. I just made the statement argument that the criticism applied moves back to you just as much as it does me.
Wait, you've been able to prove God is real?
That none of the things you say are true and they're arbitrary and your systems make no sense.
Yo, Vaush, Andrew, I'll let you guys choose. You guys have the option. Do you guys want to stay on this longer, or do you want to move back to the original?
Yeah, we can move back to
I just want to talk about policy.
We can move back to policy. That's fine.
Well,
Whatever he wants to move back to.
I'm also going to say, we're going an hour and a half. We'll probably go for another half an hour, unless, of course, there's something that's left unfinished. So just so you guys have a mental idea. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I guess I'd like to know how to prove God exists, but like leaving that aside, because I know what rabbit hole that goes down.
If you want to have a debate over that, then I would suggest that you debate with Jay Dyer, and we'll see if your logic for utilitarianism can hold up. That would be my suggestion.
Let's get back to policy.
Yeah. Also, you don't have to prove utilitarianism to disprove a person's assertions that they've proven God. But
but the criticism refines back the other way. You realize that, right? Which is that even if I was unable to substantiate my worldview as being true, you
it's
also
the lightning
can't.
Thing again.
You also can't.
Policy.
Okay, back to policy.
Okay, so my argument is that I think it's good when things are good. That's my sort of opening line. I'm putting all my chips down on the table for this one. No argument.
Wait, what did you? I'm sorry, I must have missed what you said. What did you say?
Typical Weasley debate tactics.
Yeah, repeat what you just said.
I said I think it's good when things are good. I think that's what I said. I wasn't.
How do you reply to that? I think it's good when things are good. And then he says, Andrew weaseled because he didn't understand what the fuck that means.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. What does good mean?
That's an excellent question. I think that we face a lot of problems today in our country and in our world broadly. And I think that it can seem very scary and very overwhelming. And there's not really a simple way to fix any of it. Obviously, if things could be fixed simply, they would have been. Like, it's not, there's never... It's never that easy. I do think that the declining birth rate is a meaningful issue. One day, God willing, every country will be up to economic par. And if they are, logically then it follows that they would have below replacement birth rates. And that's not good. I think that we can see what we need to do by looking at the country that did it worst, Japan. Japan has a ridiculously low birth rate, in large part, I think, because of its tyrannical work culture. It's made it virtually impossible to start a family or to have children or anything like that, because it's like you lose so much in your career. I think that if...
Cool opinion. What are we doing here? This is a debate.
If we look at that and we think, okay, that's how to do it wrong. So how can we make it right? And I think we should hearken back to the last time we had a real population boom in this country. I'm talking unions. The 1950s, the generation that produced the baby boomers, didn't just come back home to freshly built suburbs. They came back to better jobs than most Americans can get today. I think we need to reinvest in our society to make people happy to live and be alive, give people hope in the future. People are less likely to have kids if they don't hope for the future, you know? We got to address climate change, not only for...
Dude, I can barely sit here and review them. I'm not going to do the whole video because it's 3.5 hours long. There's no way I could get through this. I'll have a migraine.
For the million other reasons, but also because it'll make people more willing to bring more life into this world, which honestly at the moment is a pretty scary...
Are you ever going to tell me what good means?
Man, you're really going to run right past all that, aren't you? You're really going to
go
right back to...
I asked you a specific question and I let you ramble for, however long you rambled for.
Rambling?
I want you to tell me what good... You said, I want things to be good, man. I want things to be awesome and good, and we're all, I don't know, dope smoking hippie, whatever the fuck it is. Are you going to tell me what you mean by good?
I mean, I just laid out a bunch of things that I think
you laid up a bunch of things that you think are good, but you haven't told me what the good is. What is good?
Do you think that people...
Don't ask me a question, answer my question. What is good? Don't ask me a question, answer my question. What is good?
Maybe you can really quickly just explain what you mean by good.
Sure. Though this seems like a willful disengagement from any of the material substance.
It was your argument.
But
your argument was the good.
I'll make sure he engages with the question afterwards, but let's just expand on that.
Yeah, so going back to the topic we just painfully wrested ourselves away from over the past hour, when I say good, I mean in line with my utilitarian ethics. And when I say that, what I mean is that it maximizes or at least improves a number of conditions that I think are associated with positive utility. So in this case, I'm arguing in favor of something we should both agree is morally good, people being happy and people being fruitful, literally, people producing more children. So I would
So what do
think
you
that we
do?
could-
So what do you do with all these vast population centers which don't follow utilitarianism and have a different version of what is good?
So do you
Vaush has no idea of what he's saying here. Good, like, okay, OnlyFans chicks are really happy when they're getting their paycheck. Does that mean that it's good? No, because in the long run, they do not tend to have good outcomes. So as a utilitarian, he should be against OnlyFans, but he's not. He's not, because he doesn't look at that. He doesn't care. He's a hedonist, technically. That's what I would say he is.
things that I just talked about looking at Japan and learning what not to do. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, no, answer my question.
Oh my God, Alex, he doesn't have anything, so he'll do anything to keep
I
the
just
argument
asked you
away.
a very specific question.
So
What
it's like
exactly
it's not
is your
even
question?
related to what we're talking about.
It's related.
so-
Your
so-
statement was this is all good. All these things are good. I ask you for the definition
you-
of good.
do you
You say
believe-
it's a utilitarian ethic. Okay, it's a
Yeah, 'cause
utilitarian
you-
ethic. So what do you want to do with all
Policy.
these massive, vast populations
Policy.
that don't follow your
Policy.
utilitarian
Wait, hang
ethic?
on,
Policy.
Right, hang on. Let him finish his point. What was the end of that? I missed it.
He claims, Vaush's claim was, I want to do what's good, man. And then I said, what's good? And after his rambling diatribe, he finally said, whatever gives positive utility. I said, okay, well,
So-
as a policy prescription, which is what we're talking about, what do you want to do with all of these nations which are vast and don't follow utilitarian ethics? They follow religious ethics. What are you going to do with those, Vaush?
Alex,
Look, it is a fair question. It is
well, Alex,
related.
do you
to
remember how we said policy a bunch a while ago? And
That
then I
would be
laid out-
policy.
And then I laid out like a bunch of specific policies that I think would make people happier and produce more children. And then he ignored all of it. And because I said at the beginning
No,
of
the
that,
opposite
like 2
happened,
minutes
but
ago,
okay.
I said, I think good things are good. He's disingenuously latching onto that so he can avoid acknowledging the fact that he has no
I
real
think bad
prescriptions
things
at
are
all.
bad.
Hang on, stop.
I think
All right.
bad things are bad.
Listen, he's literally, it's like a fucking ape in the corner, man. People, there's like throwing feces.
My
But he doesn't know I'm behind glass.
kids. Stop. Okay, let's do this. So, Vaush, if you can answer this question.
Are y'all arguing about anime? I'm confused. I'll mod y'all's debate if y'all want to do it. I've been
After
looking to
that,
do
I
that.
will make sure that we go back to your initial question. He answers that in detail, and you will get
Let's see. Let's see.
This would be
Yeah.
policy. What do you do with the vast populations that don't follow your stupid ass utilitarian ethic, which almost no broad nation who has religious undertones, which are most of them, follow. They don't follow your utilitarian ethic. So what's your
So-
policy in dealing with them?
So there's a couple of presuppositions here that below a low IQ, and I'm hoping that the audience doesn't have to fall into the same pit Andrew has. For one, countries don't follow quote unquote utilitarian ethics. That's nonsensical. The fact that he would say that is
You
a
just
reminder
said
of
that
the
was
fact
the
that
good.
Hang on,
that he
Andrew.
is-
Let him finish. You asked the question. Let him finish.
he doesn't understand how ethics works. Countries are ruled by, and decisions within them are made by literally millions of people. Sometimes in autocracies, it seems like it's
They
one,
are.
but it's usually the influence of a huge number of people. And most people don't have cohesive ethical systems. The idea that the House of Saud, the Saudi Arabia, the bloodthirsty, vicious Saudi
That's always the problem with these lefty debaters.
the Arabian royal family is making their decisions based on religious ethics. Like when they decide to build a giant clock tower over Mecca, they're like, well, what does the Quran say? Notice how he muted himself. He's talking to his own chat. He literally, like, he has no intention
hang
of
on,
engaging
hold
with
on.
anything.
Let's just
I can repeat back everything you just said. Would you like me to?
We're gonna go on another tangent.
Would you like me to repeat back what you just said if you think I'm not listening? Would you like me to repeat back what I just said, what you just said?
Keep holding it to
On
your
that
memory for
third-
like,
Vosh, I want to give you a chance to finish that.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
then
wanna
we
finish.
will
But-
redirect your initial question to Andrew.
in a couple minutes, he can repeat everything I've said back word for word as a test of his memory. It's like a fun game. The idea that like the House of Saud is making religiously oriented decisions, like they're looking in the Quran to decide what decision to make, like is ridiculous. In reality, the decisions that countries make are almost always guided by self-interest, either for the nation or for the class of people in power or for the individual in power. For the House of Saud, the decisions made are almost entirely to the benefit of the royal family. For example, in the United States of America, the decisions made are ostensibly to the benefit of the majority of people because we live in a democracy, but are really heavily slanted towards the ruling class, the elites, the bourgeoisie. So the idea that this all falls on like, well, how are you going to convince their ethical systems? Well, I do it the same way all countries have always managed to engage in diplomacy with each other. I would try to find a way to make it in their best interest to adopt these systems. So I actually think it's in everyone's best interest to adopt systems that prioritize the well-being of the average person, because I think it leads to stable countries. I guess I could make the argument like, hey, I think that it's best when people are healthy, happy, and able to raise families. I think those are good arguments. People make those pretty often. So following from that, you know, what arguments could I make to France or to Germany or to Norway or hell, to Russia, to Saudi Arabia, to China to do this? And, you know, I don't think it'd be easy, but I don't think there's any easy way to get all 8 billion people on Earth to get along, because that has literally never happened. It's always going to be an uphill battle.
So,
okay, so the question has been answered. Now, let's redirect to Vaush's initial question that he was trying to ask you. Then if you want to touch on this a little bit later, we can do that. But I promised Vaush we're going to go back to his initial question.
None of those are policies, by the way. Just so you know, he never named a single policy at all. He just said I would. And by the way, he also wants to outsource his ethical system to other people, is what he just said. But okay.
Vaush, can you please repeat your initial question?
Sure. So I listed a bunch of policies. I guess his memory is not as good as he remembers, but I guess a specific one would be, given that Japan has a uniquely low birth rate and a very bad work culture, wouldn't it be sensible to look at Japan for examples on what not to do? Like maybe if we see what they're doing has led to really bad outcomes when it comes to birth rates, we could then try to prevent those things from happening in our place. So for example, there are, because he doesn't seem to think it's policy, there are lots of Japanese policies, laws, and cultural norms that dictate their extremely bad work culture. So maybe we could look at that, see the outcomes, and go, hey, let's not do that. Like, would that be
what's sensible? The policy then?
Vaush, I mean, sorry, Andrew, it is a fair question. You can follow up and ask him, hey, I don't see, you know, what the policy is. It is a fair question. It is related to the discussion. So you got to answer that.
What would the policy be?
Andrew, that's just answer his question.
He doesn't know. He wasn't listening. He doesn't know.
You didn't give a fucking policy, bro. You just said we shouldn't do X.
Yes.
What's the So what's the actual policy prescription here?
So okay, fine. Vaush, what is the actual?
I'll repeat. No, don't worry. I'll repeat it. Okay.
And then I will.
Yeah, repeat it.
I didn't make a policy prescription there. He wasn't
right. That's why I asked you for the third time. What's the policy?
I didn't give one. Your goal was to
right. I know.
Yeah, it wasn't about the policy. You weren't listening.
Yeah, but I asked you what policy you were supposed to answer, then ask me a question, but you didn't answer.
Yeah, because you didn't listen. There was no policy. You're asking the wrong question. So
how can I ask the wrong fucking question? Just answer my question.
The fact that you don't know the answer to that is so astonishing.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm just trying to repeat it, man. I'm just trying to help you understand.
I'm gonna have to start muting you guys. Okay, so listen.
Repeat the question. Can I repeat the question?
March asked the question. Sorry, what?
May I repeat the question without any flourish?
Yeah, but I think we got the question. Andrew,
did we?
I personally got the question. Yeah,
I know you did, sir. I think you're doing great.
Well, if Andrew needs it, you can repeat it. But yeah. I think so. Vaush made a question that's not directly policy prescription. However, it is very much related to the topic.
Yeah, I know. Hang on, Alex. I understand, but just so that you understand, I asked him for a policy.
I have to meet you. I'm sorry. So just please answer his question, and then afterwards, I will force Vaush to answer. Give you a policy. Okay, that's the only fair way I think of doing this. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. You know, hopefully I'm doing a good job. But yeah, so let's just do that.
What's the question, Vaush?
Rough debate. Yeah, no, happily. So Japan has a uniquely low birth rate. And that low birth rate is almost certainly caused by a set of laws and cultural norms,
Okay.
mostly oriented around the work culture there. But there's a lot of stuff, Do you think that it would be sensible for us to look at all of the things that are lowering Japan's birth rate and use those as teaching tools for what not to do over here? Like if we see over there that there is
Sure, absolutely. Every nation on earth you can do that with. Now, back to my question. What would be your policy to correct that?
Sure. So, considering the fact that very bad work culture in Japan correlates to and seems to be causative of, based on what I've seen, there's a lot of research on it, lower birth rates. So, we're setting up like a mathematical proof. If really bad work culture causes lower birth rates, it follows logically that good work culture should make for better birth rates. Now, it doesn't fix everything, of course, but it's one step in a larger set, right? So what makes Japanese work culture bad? Well, obviously the long...
That would only be true if there were no other factors involved. Like, you can't say that. How do you know the birth rates had anything to do with what you're talking about? That's just nonsense.
Hours are one. But another big one is that workers are often expected to willfully work long hours after their shift is technically ended. How are you supposed to go out and pick people up?
So what would be your policy prescription?
We have laws, strong overtime laws, that make it illegal for people to continue work like that after the official hours have been counted.
So your policy prescription in order to incentivize birth rates is to outlaw overtime.
So I think that is the fact that we have... Wait. I didn't say outlaw overtime. I said that they would be paid for it. It'd be illegal to hold them without pay after the work. You can still do overtime.
So then what? I don't understand. So if Japan has a law where you're paid for overtime, right? You just want the law in the U.S., which it already is, to be that you're paid for overtime?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why the American...
This is your big brain policy prescription?
You asked him a question, let him answer.
Yeah, you have to build a castle one brick at a time.
Oh.
So the United States has a higher birth rate than Japan by a pretty significant margin. Japan's pretty fucked. So maybe...
Why would they be fucked? I thought you said there's no problem with declining birth rates. I thought you said that was a good thing.
One of the reasons why it's fucked is because they do things worse than us in some specific ways. This would be an example of something that I think works to their detriment. They do not have the same kind of worker protections, and it is complicated in like the specifics. Obviously, we have to simplify this because I'm not like an expert on the Japanese economy, but I've read some articles where the expectation towards unpaid overtime and constant socializing with your boss, like drinking after work and stuff like that, I think things like this make it worse over there. And I think that there is causative evidence that it makes it worse over there. And we have it better over here, and we don't have those same issues. So maybe we can follow through with that.
But we still do. We have a 1.64 birth rate. They have a 1.34 birth rate.
That is significantly lower. So maybe
wait a second.
Okay.
When you say significant, when you say it's significantly lower, they're really low in both areas. If all your policy prescription is to Japan is, hey, pay people for overtime, and that's already the policy prescription inside of the United States, how do you plan on outsourcing this policy? That's the whole question. You want other country to do Vaush ethics. How does Vaush want to make Japan start paying for overtime?
I'm just talking about learning what policies would be most effective to increasing the birth rate. I think that the fact that we have that policy in the United States helps. So that was one example. There are like 1,000 more that we could go over, because obviously something as nebulous and complicated as improving the birth rate is going to involve, we could talk about criminology, we could talk about economics, we could talk about, there are so many fields where you could influence the outcomes here. I mean, no single human could know even a quarter of it. Like, we're talking about an insane set of shifts. But hey, big paradigm shifts are what socialists are supposed to be all about. So I'm fine with it. Yeah.
So how would you move that big paradigm shift?
Well, we already have paid overtime in the United States.
No. Externally, Vaush.
You mean like to make Japan better about this?
Yeah. So you want to export your ethical system, right?
No, Japanese workers also want to be paid for overtime. There are labor rights organizations that have been really active there for decades. They'd have a lot of trouble because Japan is not that democratic. We don't talk about it that much because we mostly think of Japan as like anime and Pocky sticks, but Japan is not great politically in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
And
great. But you still want to export your brand of ethics to Japan,
So,
right?
I think that the labor workers over there have been fighting for overtime pay for a long time. I mean, would supporting them be exporting my
You can just say yes. You know, I don't even know why that's a problem to say. You just say
to
yes.
bring the answer down to your IQ level?
You ask them a question, let them answer.
Yeah. So I guess right now the current
Exactly,
setup,
Nappy.
like the current disingenuous setup for a gotcha is that I believe that it's good for good things to happen to people in other countries.
Now, you think it's good to export your moral system, and so I don't understand what your criticism is of other people doing it.
Hang on. Children. Let's let Vaush answer the original question that Andrew asked him.
So again, he frames this entirely in gotchas. The idea of I support labor rights organizations in Japan means I support exporting ethics, means I should support exporting ethics in all cases. The functional argument that is being made here would be that me supporting overtime pay in Japan is equivalent to like Hitler invading neighboring countries. It is a level of political reductionism that is genuinely so retarded that I don't know how he put his shirt on before showing up to the debate.
Well, I don't know how you see me with those big Coke bottle glasses, but the truth is you haven't seen any arguments either. But I am happy to see that you've finally been losing weight.
I think that worker rights are good everywhere they are practiced.
Yeah, I know. You want to export your ethical system. The thing is,
the
criticism applied to me is the same criticism applied to you. I know that you think that that's not big brain because I don't use enough adjectives, but it is true, Vaush.
Isn't it incredible how even after we chanted policy together, he still can't. I mean, if supporting labor rights organizations in Japan is like Adolf Hitler invading Poland or whatever, then like, okay, sure. I want to Lebensraum Japan by promoting their happiness and higher birth rates, by doing things that are democratically desirable to the population. I believe that it's okay to make arguments because I believe in freedom. I will Lebensraum the mind space of people all around the world by doing Hitler-esque things like saying that it's good to get along and sharing is caring. I mean, we're talking like Sesame Street ethics here. So what are we pretending to care about right now?
Vaush, I think
you're pretending to care about Japanese workers or something.
Vaush, okay. I think if you want to talk about policy, I think it'd be helpful if you ask Andrew very specific policy related questions.
But then he would have to actually defend his side of that. So that's why he won't do it.
Sure. Do you think that we should promote better workplace culture in Japan if it raises the birth rate of that country?
If their culture was not in some way affected by it in a negative light, I would say that the positives could overwhelm that, and that if we had foreign policy, it would be within side of the Christian ethic to do so. Yeah.
What does that mean if it wouldn't be detrimental to their culture?
Well, there could be other factors, for instance. So you could try, for instance, to mess with whatever the cultural cohesion is and end up drastically having a reduction in the birth rates even further without recognizing the damage that you're doing. Hard to say in that particular case, and there's overlap in the consequence, especially when it comes to duties. So again, back to Japan, though, I wouldn't have a problem with say, oh, the birth rate's going to skyrocket if we start paying these people for overtime. Yes, of course, I would say you should probably pay them for overtime. However, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that I'm trying to export my own system of ethics to Japan, which Christians did successfully do, by the way.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Why would that be problematic? You're doing the exact same thing. So the criticism back is always the same. That's the point. I still haven't heard an actual criticism against Christian nationalism yet. Not one.
Alex, I genuinely don't know what he's talking about. I don't know why. It's like he had a list of gotchas that he wrote down before this, and he realized it's 2 hours in, and he hadn't tried to argue that all forms of advocating for another country to change are exactly the same.
Andrew,
so he just brought it up out of nowhere.
He just made it up.
Hang on. Andrew, repeat your last question one more time, please.
I don't think there was a question.
Yeah, I was responding to a question.
Mostly.
He was asking questions, and I was answering them.
Okay, so you don't
now it's my turn.
Well, let's hang on. You said you want Vaush to give specific policy prescriptions.
Yeah, so now I would like to follow up on my question.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you want more policy? I love policies.
So moving back into the Japanese, I think that that's a pretty good place to start. Right now, Japan is being drastically affected by the fact that they have such an elder care crisis. And the elder care crisis is coming, of course, because of their birth rate crisis. This is the number one thing affecting them. They've even considered opening up their borders for slight amounts of immigration in order to take care of this problem. Though the culture there seems to be adamantly against it, they are considering doing so. Do you think that the birth rate collapse there, then, can we agree that that is a problem even for a utilitarian, that their birth rate is collapsing to the point they can't take care of their elderly?
Yeah, of course. I just said it's a problem.
So then all over the world, this is happening, right? And your solution to it is what?
So all over the world, the Western world right now has a below replacement birth rate. Most countries that are not in the Western
We have
world
the same problem.
Are not
elder
quite
care.
there, but they're
elder
getting
care
there.
Is still a problem.
Well, elder care is always going to be an issue. They're old. Japan and China are going to have
nothing to do with what I just said. The
problem
with elder care, with elder care here has to do with the.
Why wouldn't young people's care be bad too? Because they're young. What kind of point is that?
That we have below replacement levels again, and even with mass migration, we can't get enough people into these jobs to take care of the elderly. Same issue you have in Japan now.
Let's let Vaush answer that question.
So the difference is, first of all, it actually isn't the same problem. Japan doesn't have much in the way of immigration. We actually have an above replacement birth rate in America.
There we go.
Factoring immigration in terms of just how many.
Told y'all why he was arguing for this, because it's all about bringing more voter block to his party.
The workers we have.
Well, then we have a below replacement rate.
So we have, which means we're not suffering from a population crisis in the same way Japan is. Japan, because they don't really allow for immigration in the same way that we do, not only has below replacement birth rates, they have total below replacement population. They're dipping. So their problem is definitely a lot worse. However, obviously, we want to avoid population dips. Ideally, every country would level out at essentially replacement rate. There's always going to be fluctuations, of course.
The thing we're below,
highly
right?
Variable. But yeah, I think that the goal eventually would be to get the world on board with that. There's still countries that have a lot of room to grow, like India, for example, is going to keep ballooning for a while. Africa, the continent of Africa is going to massively increase in population. I mean, it's so big. Europe is so small, and Africa and Asia are so big. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of freaking.
All right, I'm going to end the debate here, I think, because this is just too much for me to deal with. Vaush has no idea what he's talking about, and now we're just talking about the geography of the places we're dealing with. It's just baffling to me. But let me put the music back on for you. Let me do this one. So I'll be back here on Wednesday, and anyone who's still in the comments, please throw a subscription up, except Bubba Frog. You are banned from subscribing to me. I don't need any MAP people following me. So everyone except Bubba Frog, please subscribe. I'm desperate to get some monetized, but not that desperate yet. So MAP means minor attracted person. That means he likes children. So I'm just going to leave that there, and I will. Let me pull this up first. There we go. Look how pretty. So I want to tell y'all, I'll see y'all on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Peace.